What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Heavy Metallurgy. It's Friday night. We're on episode number 245. I have some awesome folks tonight, and one of them is my partner in crime, Alan. How you doing, man?
Doing all right. Just a long, cold week in this neck of the woods, but gotten through everything. So glad to get to hang out with folks tonight, and hello to folks in the chat. Hope everyone is staying warm or not having the same kind of, a little Arctic blast we've got here locally. Not a whole lot else to report from here. How are you doing, Marty?
Doing good. Busy week. Doing good. Super psyched to have on for the first time Dan Lake. Most of you will know him from his writing in Decibel Magazine, and also the author of this book, USBM, The Revolution of Identity in American Black Metal. Daniel, welcome to the show. How you been?
Man, great. It's awesome to get to hang out with you guys on this show. I've watched a bunch of it, so I'm really excited to talk some black metal.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Glad to have you on, and really appreciate you taking the time to join us for the evening.
So, thing that I got this week familiarizing myself with this book was it's been 5 years. Where does the time go, first and foremost? Does it seem like 5 years, or is it just me?
It does. To me, I feel every bit of it, mostly because 5 years shouldn't matter for a history book. It feels like it should, 5 years shouldn't be a big deal. But in US black metal, the past 5 years have been so eventful that I at the end of this book, I wrote a bit in the chapter, or the last chapter, about how, after a little while, it'll be out of date. We accept that. Man, I did not think it would feel this it's just missing some acts that have just popped up in the past few years,
right?
That are pretty important now. So it's still a great history. It's still worth it for what it's got there. But some of these bands have really done some interesting things recently.
And I guess the big question for me was, you've been a writer in the metal sphere for some time now, and why US black metal? What was the impetus to make you want to write and harvest all this information for this book?
So I had a buddy, I teach at a high school, and this guy I used to teach with found out that I was starting to get into more extreme types of heavy music. And I mentioned black metal as one of the things I was getting into. Now, he had been into this stuff since he was a teenager and had spent years buying whole lots on eBay. People would put up, dozens or hundreds of CDs, and he would just buy them all. And he just dumped a ton of stuff on me. It was like, here, listen to all this. And I was not in any way ready for that. But over time, I sifted through and realized there's a lot about black metal, that darkness, that mysterious quality to it that really spoke to me, more than most other types of metal. There's a spiritual quality to black metal that I can really get into, and the American version of it both takes so liberally from kind of evil death metal, and also is so there's something about US black metal. A lot of US black metal that I particularly like is so introverted and so turned inward on it's these guys who are they hate, but they hate themselves more than anything else. And it just, they just chew on their own souls kind of in their music. And there's something about that speaks to me and always has.
Right on. And I remember too, back when this was all happening, that American black metal never really got a fair shake in the larger music community at large. Why do you think that is?
Well, for almost the exact reasons that I just brought up, black metal, among a lot of people who love black metal, they prefer the European styles, um, which certainly came first is a weird thing, but blew up first. Absolutely, the European bands blew up first, and there was like a rock forward momentum to a lot of that music. I'm thinking, Immortal, that kind of thing. Um, that the American sound just didn't really have much of. Um, and whenever an American band came up to try to claw its way forward, uh, the general approach was a shrug and like, they're just aping what Europeans are already doing better.
Mhm.
And I get it, but there's just a lot of personality in the American stuff that I like. So
Yeah. I mean, I don't think any scene is really, or genre or geographical scene is void of it. I remember, people complaining about Norse core all the time. I mean, there's detractors for every style of music, but I agree with everything you said. And I would also add that it always seemed to me like the American scene was just so eager, very eager to throw their hat into the ring on this style. And, you know, damn it to hell if it's clean or if it's tight or proficient in, I mean, a lot of sloppiness here and there, which in a weird kind of way, in my mind anyway, kind of appealed, or it was a good characteristic of the sound, Profanatica, Krieg.
yeah.
I mean, Judas Iscariot. Let's not forget Andy's drumming on the first few albums. Real
Oh
rough.
hell yeah. Oh hell
Real
yeah.
rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so some of the best stuff sounds like that. It sounds unhinged.
Yeah.
It should. Yeah.
Raw, super raw. And obviously there are some bands that are obvious that you chose for the book. What were the bands that what fit the criteria to be in the book? What, just popularity? I mean, how did you, because there's some bands in there that aren't super popular, like Azrael, and we talked about that earlier today. And what do you think?
Well, so it absolutely starts with kind of what I already was familiar with, whether it was bands I liked or bands that I knew. Because I had, by the time I was working on the book, I had been writing for Decibel already for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And so I was pretty plugged into what black metal was being, what people were paying attention to. And so that's where I started. And I started doing interviews. And it was through those interviews that bands started to creep in that I didn't know as much about. And so I started following those, going down those rabbit holes. And that meant that I was including more and more bands in the mix. I wish I could say that was true about the band you just brought up, Azrael. But Azrael was actually a band that I had gotten into on my own. And loved that stuff. And so when we were bashing around like the edit and what bands that I had interviewed and written about, but what could make it in and what wasn't gonna be able to make the cut, Azrael was one of the bands I fought for a little bit because that had mattered to me when I was getting into this stuff.
Well, you gave me a layup there. What bands didn't make the cut that you wanted to, or you interviewed and hoped that they would?
Well, I did a whole chapter on Yellow Eyes, and the scene that they come out of, which they're extraordinary. I think the feeling at the time was that the sound that they had was actually being kind of covered in other parts of the book. I think that's no longer quite true because I think they have advanced beyond that. But at the time, that was the kind of the feeling. And then, some of the stranger stuff like Pyramids was a project that I think is interesting, in part because of the close association with Vinsval from Bluthaus Nord. having him working on those first couple of Pyramids records is interesting to me. Also, the Project Botanist, which is black metal but played on a hammered dulcimer. So it sounds strange, but so you mentioned it's been 5 years since the book came out. When the book first came out, I really did feel like, okay, this is supposed to be a book about black metal bands. And more, I feel like there are a bunch of bands that have played black metal that it's reasonable to argue that they might not be, quote, black metal bands. So maybe the book is more my attempt to explore what music black metal and the sound of black metal has touched. Where has it gone in American music? And so bands like Botanist and Pyramids, fit that profile. Deaf Heaven, I think, fits that profile, even though, shortly after this book came out, Deaf Heaven just kind of even, Deaf Heaven is not a band people would think of as a black metal band. And then they put out a complete non-metal record right after this book dropped. But, yeah.
Did you have stuff for Dan Allen? Anything you were thinking of when you were reading the book?
No, sort of the same thing. As you mentioned that, there were things you had to fight for. I'm guessing you had a lot more material than made it into the book. Is there thoughts of using that for a follow-up at some point, or have you been using that for different articles and things of that nature?
No, it's still sitting around. So yeah, if there's ever some future, work on this project in some way, then yeah, that's available to be, expanded on. So yeah.
I thought it was pretty interesting while reading the book. Obviously the climate today is, pretty charged, and I like the fact that you really kind of dug in with it in the book. It didn't really dig in, but you covered Grand Belial's Key and talked about some other bands here and there that have had some problems over the years. Let's face it, the American scene, the Europeans had their way and their criminal things, and the US also has had its share, and it seems to be kind of deeply rooted in some of it. How did you, going into this knowing that, obviously you did a ton of research doing this, how did you feel that you wanted to navigate the whole process? And again, who makes it in, who doesn't make it in?
Sure. I mean, again, I did see this as a history book, and I wasn't interested in shying away from important benchmarks just because the people who were involved have like either shady or just outright like shitty pasts.
Yep.
I feel like that stuff still matters. You still need to talk about it. And you should talk about it honestly. You should talk about it, clearly. And so, that leads to me kind of throwing in a whole section right at the beginning of the book that's like, hey, we have to recognize that this exists. We should be better people. And also, sometimes, and I think, I don't remember if it was Paul Delaney, I think, from Black Anvil, makes the point in the book, like, it's maybe absurd to think that really dark, difficult music that does process true human negativity will always come from people who are well adjusted. Like, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. And you obviously interviewed some characters here. You got any stories, anything you want to share, little experiences you had? I'm assuming a lot of this was conducted over email, or did you do a lot of phone type work as well?
It was both. There was a lot of phone interviews.
Yeah.
I know somebody we're going to talk about very shortly here. One of my favorite interviews was with Michael Ford from Black Funeral.
Yep.
Just an exceptional conversation. And having those phone conversations made all the difference. Some was email. And then, the year after the book got published, I drove around the country for the summer and got to meet up with a bunch of people. And so, like, my copy of the book, I got a bunch of people to sign it as I traveled the country.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Kind of a reverse book signing tour.
Like a yearbook for black metal.
That's right. Yeah. So that was a pretty rad experience.
That's awesome. Takeaway. What did you take away from all of this? Having talked to people from all over the U.S., all from the East Coast to the West Coast to the Midwest. I mean, was there any unifying factors? Was there a sense of scene? Was there a sense of connection? What do you think that you got out of this whole experience of communicating with all these people on different wavelengths in their musical careers and in their life?
Yeah, I had expected that as I did more and more interviews, there would be a sense, like, it would slowly coalesce into, I would see this scene happening, and like these people who really fed off each other's energy, and this other group of people, whether it was geographic or not, just like I would start to see knots of people who had each other's backs. That was largely not true. It really seemed like a lot of these people felt isolated, and so this music they wanted to make, they hardly ever were able to find other people who wanted to make this music with them. Scenes did exist. I would say that in like the San Francisco Bay Area,
I was gonna say the whole scene around the Aquarius Records thing was a clear, and they're all very similar to each other too. All one-man projects, all kind of, doing that raw black metal thing, and kind of cool. Anyway, continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Go ahead.
No, you're totally right. But think, like, there are places like Minnesota or Michigan where there was a bunch of stuff happening, and that wasn't like they weren't really connected. There was just a bunch of kind of isolated things happening. Same with like Texas is a huge state, so to say that like people were isolated in Texas almost goes without saying. But so that didn't quite coalesce the way I thought it would. But then, one of my personal takeaways was I was sure after I put in a bunch of time, super focused on writing this book, because when I write about music, I bombard myself with that music. Whenever I'm writing an article for Decibel, while I'm piecing the article together, I am playing that music over and over and over again to try to maybe draw the tone of the music into the writing itself. So while I was writing the book, I listened to the whole genre USBM. Like, I listened to all of the music. And I was sure that at the end of that process, I would have burned myself out and I would not want to hear that kind of music anymore. The complete opposite was true. I am more like, I enjoy it at a deeper level with interest in more of the details than I did before I started the project.
Oh, that's really cool.
That is cool. I know while reading the book or skimming through it again this week, I threw on the Creebane demo on the YouTube. I'm like, I have the split with Leviathan, but I've never heard this. I bought it. I found it online on vinyl for cheap. I'm like, oh, cool. Good stuff. It's cool after all these years to still learn about new stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
New old stuff, I should say.
Yeah.
I'm sure your collection probably grew a bit too after meeting some of these people or talking to some of these people and digging in further. Like, oh, I think I need a copy of this. Was there anything that you maybe were refamiliarized about that you may have missed the first time?
I mean, I will say that, like, I had been familiar with the New York band Krallis since they started and put out that first record. And, I'd listened to it a bunch, but it actually took working on the book before I heard all of the good stuff in that record. And so, yeah, there's some things that I certainly learned to appreciate differently.
Right.
And yeah, bought some things on my trip around the country. I stopped in at the Eroding Winds store. That
Cheers to Adam. Shout out to Adam.
Yeah, that Adam runs in Wisconsin. So yeah, that was cool.
Awesome. Is the book still available? I'm assuming it is. I think Alan put a link in the description. Again, everybody, here it is. Did you have something more for Dan?
No, I think we've covered it pretty good. But yeah, the link, it looks like it's still available through Decibel, if nothing else. So we've got that link down there for folks who haven't picked up a copy and are interested.
What's up, Albert? How you doing, man?
Nice.
Trying to make it rain over at Decibel Press again. Come on.
Yeah.
Quit interrupting.
Yeah. Albert, I would imagine is feeling a little rough about the print quantity that we went with, because man, you're right. It's been 5 years. Why haven't we sold out of this thing yet?
Well, hopefully there's some people in the chat today that have not seen the book. It is quite comprehensive. It's very interesting. You kind of let the band, there's some author, there's some of yourself in this as well, but you really do give the artist a lot of room to talk about their history, and it's very interesting. Very interesting. So you did a great job, man. Awesome job on the book for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very rereadable too. It reads easy, even though some folks have commented in the chat that that's a really big, thick book. It's actually a very easy read, and it's divided up really well. It's not like, even for the bigger bands, it feels like you move through them at a good pace. The smaller bands still get enough attention. So nobody should be intimidated about checking it out. I go back and reread portions of it, very regularly.
And it's set up in a way you can bounce around, flip to the band you want to read, and
Yep.
Well, and I hope, because of my experience with, before I was working on this book at all, I had picked up Dial Patterson's Evolution of the Cult black metal book, and I read that book in little chunks, and each time I was reading about a band, I was pulling up music by that band, and I was exploring that music while reading. I guess I hope that people can do that with this book. You don't need to, take it in all at once. Just little chunks and explore the music while you do it.
Oh, Aqua Fresh brought something up here that I had wondered about too. The book has a foreword by Tom G. Warrior, which is cool, but also kind of an interesting pick. It's not a person from the U.S. black metal scene. How did that come about that you got Tom to do it and decided he was the right person to do an intro on a U.S. black metal book?
Yeah, so Albert and I were batting this around right around the time the book got finished, and the conversation was like, hey, here are all these Americans we can think of who are connected to the scene, but I already interviewed all of them. They already make big appearances in the book, so it felt a little strange to approach somebody who's already featured in the book to do that. And so we were looking for a name that is associated with, the style of music. And when Tom Warrior said he would do it, it was just like jaws dropping. Like, wait, really? Okay. Yeah. You do it. Yes.
It is interesting to have someone too that is so like a godfather of the scene from a different country outside looking in, and his perspective on what happened in the U.S. is interesting. Yeah. So it was a good choice. Interesting choice.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Books are available. Link in the description to Decibel to go get yourself one. Please go do so. It's a very good read, informative. And do you have any other, before we move on to our topic tonight, are you working on something else?
Just working on my day job and working on keeping my my own two children moving forward. I still love writing for Decibel, and I recently finished the project working on the Hall of Fame for Panopticon's Autumn Eternal.
Right
That
on,
was
which was
a
awesome.
fun project.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Thank you again for doing that. Very cool.
hell yeah.
Tried to get him on tonight, and he was busy, so couldn't make it. Awesome. Well, okay. Let's get going. Dan, you're the guest, so you get to go first. Let's talk about one at a time some favorite releases. Talk about the black metal scene.
Oh
in
man.
the US.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to kind of go around kind of one at a time kind of a thing, but
Yep.
first of all, I will apologize. I have some artifacts sitting around, some vinyl, some CDs. But by way of explanation, I was thinking today, like my love for black metal, and certainly US black metal, coincides almost precisely with me becoming a father, and being a public school teacher, and somewhere it being around the 2007 2008 recession. All of this is to say that my physical media collection for this particular music is pretty low. Just money and availability kind of a thing. But yeah, so I have some stuff around. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to show for the first band I want to bring up.
Oh, that's fine. That's completely
Yeah,
fine.
no worries.
One of my absolute favorite projects in this scene, kind of the most like committed, ugly, but also very musically adept stuff, Leviathan. I think Rest, there it is, man. That record, Massive Conspiracy, sounds so good.
Yeah.
I love so much I love something like Massive Conspiracy, but I also, sometimes think that the How Mockery at the Cross compilation might be my favorite.
Oh, it's very
set
good.
of
Yeah.
songs, because it's just raw and yeah, I love that stuff. So actually, I'll bounce it off to Alan if you want to jump in and talk about that record or Leviathan in general.
Oh, go ahead. I'll follow up, but no, I don't want to. I was just wanted to show it. Yeah, so there was a visual, but no, please continue.
Sure. I just through talking with Jeff, like all of that stuff, everything he's done musically comes from a very personal, very authentic place. It matters a ton to him, and that's the kind of thing that makes music matter to me. I think 10th Sublevel is an incredible record. But like I've said, like even in all that raw like ugliness and lo-fi and we've talked like about like Judas Iscariot with some of that like sloppy drumming. Man, none of that is true of Leviathan. It's not sloppy. It's so technical is the wrong word, but it's so capable. That music is so interesting. There's a musicality in all of that grime that is it's so powerful to me. So anyway, that's the first one I wanted to bring up.
I will say, back before Botanist was a band, the guy that formed Botanist, I was in contact with him a lot, and he sent me 7 or 10 Leviathan CDRs that he dubbed for me. Apparently he was out. I don't remember his exact location, but he was somehow in contact with Rest. And yeah, so it was kind of cool to hear all these demos. Always had a hard time connecting with it, but we'll get into that. We'll get into that a bit later. Maybe I'll jump into that idea. Anyway, it was so prolific. Oh my God, he was just a machine turning out, just so driven. It's crazy. Dudes like that are just kind of, I'm envious of their drive and passion for what they're doing. Alan.
Yeah, no, and just following up there too. Yeah, I think a big thing that Leviathan gets credit for, he was in the right place at the right time and was one of those bands that it felt like helped really legitimize US black metal to a lot of people. Like we talked about earlier, in the mid and late 90s, a lot of folks didn't take black metal from the US very seriously. But with bands like Leviathan, it kind of made it impossible not to take it seriously. Because like you said, Daniel, it's very well put together music. There is no sloppiness to it. It's very, very carefully put together in this project. And it also had its own sound. Nobody was really going to accuse Rest of just being a Norway wannabe copycat or anything. So, there were other projects, that were popping up around that time too that helped with that. But yeah, once acts like Leviathan were getting onto people's radar, I feel like the whole, the US can't play black metal kind of started quieting down quite a bit.
Simmer down now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, maybe some bands took a little while to find their footing, but check this shit out. Nothing in Europe sounds like this. It's like, okay, now the scene had its own kind of, street cred. But yeah, I had just picked this one. Leviathan's a project I was late to, saw their stuff, but yeah, just never followed up. So it's taken me a while. The past year or two, I've been digging into more of it. And yeah, Massive Conspiracy was kind of the album that clicked fastest for me. But I agree with you. The Howl Mockery collection is really, really good for the earlier Raw stuff. Let's see. Let's move on to somebody else then too. I wanted to start with one of the earlier bands from the scene, and that would be Absu. I grabbed Barathrum just as a visual with the cool cover, not the not the other Osmo
My
cover.
my cover is the other cover,
Yeah.
the band photo. Yeah.
The kind of thing.
In the pink logos, yeah.
Yeah. This one was meant to be the artwork on that, and snail mail is a problem sometimes. Things don't get delivered when they need to be, apparently. But yeah, one thing with Absu, obviously, very talented. They had their unique sound. Absu was on the scene very early. This one came out in 93, I think. So most people think that early on, it's all Norway and Scandinavian black metal, but you did have things happening in the US even at that early time. And Absu was always kind of strange to me because they had their own sound early on. They were not trying to do anything similar to what was happening in Northern Europe. And it was almost like people didn't know how to describe them. Yeah, because when I would see ads for Absu records coming out in the mid-90s, I don't remember people tagging them or, hyping them as a black metal band at all. It's almost like people thought it's got this more unique sound and it's from the wrong side of the planet. We'll put it closer to the death metal scene, I guess, because that's where it comes from. So yeah, they were always, felt like, a very unique inclusion, and had a good run of albums. Of course, the sound develops a lot, some crazy speed on some of the albums for sure. But yeah, and then you look in hindsight now, everyone's like, oh, well, yeah, obviously they were an early US black metal, band in the early and mid 90s before, kind of, the next crop of bands started to pop up. So yeah, I think Absu's is one worth mentioning here early because they were on the scene very early, picking up, some ideas from 80s black metal acts, but really developing their own sound pretty quickly, which was pretty cool. So thoughts on Absu?
And a cool recording connection with King Diamond.
Yeah.
They were recording briefly at the same place where King Diamond was recording, and so they kind of swapped some parts on records there, which is super cool.
On this one, Tara.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Then I just to follow up on Absu, these two are my favorites, Tara and Son of Tippereth. Just this very special band. They sounded like nobody else. Their fusion of black metal and thrash metal was, I think, pretty innovative. The thrash was obvious, but not obvious, if that makes sense. They didn't go the obvious. There wasn't fun thrashy like Ara Noir or something like that. It was just very, you could tell they came from maybe the thrash era. And I know there was some death metal in their lineage as well, but this rhythmically, Proscriptor McGovern is just an absolute demon on the drum kit. It's just driving this material, and his very theatrical vocal style and the way they constructed riffs, all very excellent.
Yeah,
excellent
and that's a
band.
good point about the thrash roots in there, Marty. Yeah, that's definitely a big part of their sound.
Well, for me, Dan mentioned Leviathan, which, I've tried with Leviathan. I like some of it, but I don't love it. I found much more connection with Lurker of Chalice's debut album.
Oh, yeah. Good.
I haven't spun this in ages. I threw this on the other night, and it's still, I think, pretty forward thinking, especially if you listen to Leviathan. Leviathan is, especially the earlier stuff, it's just pretty raw and just grinding and harsh. And this here has got a bit of a, I want to say gothic, but that's not correct. I hear a lot of neurosis in some of the riffs on here. There's just that neurosis thickness and sludginess to some of the riffs. The first track on here is really, really great with the bending, the bending chords while he's picking. I don't remember the name of the song, but it reminds me of Bludos Nord or there's definitely that. Kind of makes you feel wrong when he's playing and tremolo picking and pulling those strings down. It's just, it drags you into that hell where he's at. It's just that very cool. The middle of this album gets kind of quiet and a little squirrely, but it's bookended by a lot of weight and a lot of really heavy emotions. So I know this is one of those projects that sprouted out of him trying to get out of Moribund Records. He signed a contract that didn't work out for him, or I don't know. I don't know. Daniel would be able to probably further it. And, it's kind of funny speaking of a quick aside here, speaking of Moribund Records, there's no understating the importance of that label when it comes to American black metal. Whether you like it or not, he had his finger on kind of the pulse of a lot of really cool stuff, especially back when it was kind of getting started.
Yep.
Any
it
thoughts?
It felt like one of the first labels where something started to coalesce around it.
Yeah.
That people, that was getting a little more exposure, a little more distribution, so you could find it easier.
Any thoughts on Odin and Moribund, Dan? After talking to him, I've only met him once. I met him at a Milwaukee Metal Fest once.
Yeah, I haven't met him in person. I've only had good conversations with the guy. I do know that like Jeff and some other people have been frustrated with some of the business arrangements there, and I totally understand that. But you're right, Moribund does stand out as one of those labels that really was an easy go-to for a while.
Yep.
You could trust that like really interesting stuff was going to be happening there.
Yeah.
But also, man, with that Lurker record, that's just that, like you said, that's weird music, and I love how weird it gets.
Yeah, it does get weird for sure. All right, Daniel, your next one. What have we got?
Sure. So I have a little bit of this stuff around. The final record from Ludacra, which is really, really solid. So anyway, Ludacra, the band that came out of San Francisco, just some really interesting people coming together from weird, diverse backgrounds to make really cool black metal that stretches out but by the time the last couple records are happening, stretches out in all kinds of different directions. I also have a CD copy here of Fex Urbis. So great records. Although weirdly enough, I do not have a copy of what I think is my favorite of their records, Another Great Love Song. I think really touches all the bases for me, and those songs are really incredible. But there's something about the personalities that made up that band. That's just a magical thing. I am so frustrated that they got back together. They were playing shows and then they were done. And I saw them. I didn't see them play when they reformed. I saw them play around the Tenant. They were on a tour that was supposed to be headlined by Mayhem. There was going to be a US Mayhem tour, and then for whatever reason, Mayhem couldn't do the tour at all. But instead of just canceling the tour, I think it was Ludacris and Krallis and Toombs played together in a bunch of different venues, and I got to see them play then. They were amazing. Seeing Ludacris live was incredible, and I am so bummed that when they got back together a couple years ago and then decided to play their final shows, I did not catch that.
Yeah. Bummer.
But,
all right.
Yeah, great band.
Cool. Alan.
Yeah, good pick. And the Tenets album, I've tried several times. I have trouble getting into that, but the one thing that always stands out on it is Laurie's vocal performance. She's incredibly good at that style. Let's see. Next, let's again stick with some kind of early important ones. The name's already popped up once or twice. Another band I felt like kind of helped start to get people more seriously interested into black metal from the US in the late 90s was Judas Iscariot. I picked Distance and Solitary Night just as one of my favorites by them. This was one of those bands that some people would still laugh at. Like you mentioned before, Marty, his drumming, it's easy to be dismissive and say, oh yeah, it's sloppy. He's not a drummer. And as such, it's just like some kind of, poor second-rate Norwegian wannabe. But it was also a project where other people were listening to and be like, yeah, it may be kind of amateurs, but there's something really good here also.
Charm.
And it was also, this, let's see, Iscariot's first album came out in 96, I think. And so like the couple of years after that are when you had more and more of an internet presence with some of the earlier like heavy metal message boards popping up at Metal Maniacs, and then Lapland is one of the spinoffs. And so it was kind of the right time because people were getting online, checking stuff out a little bit more and talking about it. And this was, one of the bands that, people were curious about, couldn't always find the stuff very easy, but started to generate some chatter online. And people were like, no, this one's not something just, right off. And if you like black metal, this is worth your time. So another one then that's being on Morb and Cult, you could sometimes track down the stuff. I was lucky. One of the stores near where I was living in the late 90s would get their releases at least semi-regularly. You couldn't walk in on any day and find the entire Iscariot catalog, but the guy there had really good taste who was in charge of ordering the metal stuff. And so, yeah, when something came out, he'd get at least a couple of copies of it. So as long as you got there before the other local metalheads, you could score a copy of some of it. But yeah, obviously, became kind of a very central, kind of also one of the central, I feel like, earlier recognizable figures with Akhenaten. It was somebody that people could, identify. He is that guy, and that is his band, and start to have not really a mythos around him. That's maybe overselling it. But, there was, at least, sort of, a figure there, a personality that you could tie to the project so that you were interested not just in what, the music was conveying, but you were also interested in this character who was creating it. So, yeah, Judas Iscariot, he got a drummer pretty soon after this, I think. And
Dwayne Timlin.
Yes, I always forget his name. And so, there's a marked, change and improvement in the drums there. Some people like that and some people don't. Some people really like the earlier stuff that's a little more raw. They feel it's a little more pure or honest, which is a big thing with this scene. And Daniel, you kind of, mentioned that a bit earlier too, that it's a very emotional thing. People get very attached to the scene and they don't mind if it sounds odd or different, or if somebody can't play in time all the time. Those imperfections and stuff really make it endearing to a lot of people. So yeah, a lot of folks like even the earlier kind of what you'd objectively say is the more crude Judas Iscariot stuff just as much as they like the later ones. But yeah, this was always just kind of my personal favorite out of the catalog. So that's the one I pulled.
Right on. Well, that gave me the opportunity to talk about what came before Judas Iscariot, which was Sarcophagus.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I saw the band. I bought this from the band. They played Michigan Death Fest one year. They are absolutely crushing. They were so good. Was it Marcus Kohler, the bass player? He went on to be in Commandant, among other things. Force of Impaled was another band he did. But anyway, yeah, this was a more death metal charged band. As they went through the years, they had a couple demos. They're all compiled on this CD here. This was the album where they started to feel the black metal bug. He went from death metal to hey, wait a minute. This doesn't look like death metal anymore. And this was I always thought this was kind of an awkward record. It was heavier. They're trying to be black metal. It's still feeling a little bit death metal. It is just an awkward transition. And then finally we get to this album, Requiem to the Death of Passion. I saw them for this album too. They played at Milwaukee Metal Fest. Absolutely great. Awesome. Really well done black metal. Marcus's bass work, very busy. He's a very talented technical bass player. It's just interesting to hear it in this context. Black metal typically isn't known for flashy bass work. It really cuts through on this here. They were really getting it. I think Dwayne Timlin here, he ended up being the drummer for Judas Iscariot as well. But yeah, this is just a really cool project. I think more people are familiar with Judas Iscariot for obvious reasons. And but where Andrew Harris came from was also very good. He was also Andrew Harris he did Debauchery was a band he did. He was in a band called Seeds of Hate. He had a band called Jesus Fucking Christ, which I've never heard. I think that was more grind oriented. There was some other stuff too he was involved in quite a bit. And apparently, according to the book, Krieg Neil was saying that he still writes an album every year and no one gets to hear it. So be interesting to hear some of those albums. There was some good shit definitely in his artistic repertoire.
Yeah, and some of that Judas Iscariot stuff, I think just a couple years ago got reissued. And I heard grumblings from people, who know or knew Andy Harris that not that action of reissuing the Judas Iscariot stuff was not something that he would have been all that pleased with.
Was it the Ascension Monuments thing with Blake Judd he bootlegged all that shit essentially?
Was it? I don't think I thought.
Or did he get another reissue?
I thought it was Moribund, but I might be wrong.
Well, I know Blake Judd did that Ascension's Monument label and was
that's right,
putting out all this Judas Iscariot shit. And
okay, maybe it was that. Yeah,
Andrew wasn't having that. I don't think that was not part of the deal. He didn't have the rights to do it. Yeah. But, all right, you're up, sir.
Well, just to piggyback, Sarcophagus was one of those bands that I found while working on the book, and that was a cool find. Something that I enjoyed digging into. I really appreciate you guys going for the roots because I did not do a good job of that with my picks.
That's okay. We're not always going to do it, but when it's there, I try.
Yeah,
I try.
Yeah. Another band I wanted to jump into that definitely has black metal in its DNA. Although I almost feel like when I hear some of this stuff, it's like black metal neurosis almost, like that kind of. There's a big burly quality to stuff by Cobalt.
That album is so freaking great. My God, it's so good.
Yeah, Jin is incredible. But I'm just as appreciative of the Eater of Birds record that came before it. I really, really, really like that stuff. I know that people also love Slow Forever.
I never heard that record. I have not heard a note off that record. Yeah,
it's a massive album. There's so much music. It also happened to come out at a time in my life when I just didn't have a lot of time. And so I would love to say that that's also a favorite, but I don't know it very well. And yeah, it's somebody just mentioned in the chat there that, we lost Eric last year, and It's really, really very sad. But yeah, Cobalt were incredible for those years.
There's just moments of that Gin album where it just sounds like his emotions are on fire. The music is so intense, and just you're so emotionally invested in the music that's happening. It's like, it's some really innovative, unique, completely unique. They didn't, especially on Gin, didn't sound like anybody, and very, very raw, awesome, emotional record. Awesome. Always very impressed by that one. Alan.
Yeah. Cobalt is a band I'm not familiar with. They've been on my short list to check out since reading about them in the book and just haven't got to them yet.
Check out Gin for sure. God, it's so good.
I'll start with that one. Let's see. Now, one that I did check out when I read about it in the book and really instantly clicked with is Wind of the Black Mountains. This one, the way just that you described it, Dan, like that sounds interesting. Let's make a note of that. I came across it pretty soon after that and picked it up. And yeah, this is a really cool and interesting project. The main guy behind it, was Jeff Elrod. Had played, in another band, but this kind of became his, black metal. Let's try some weird and different things. And things that stand out about it for what's kind of a 1 or 2 man project that was essentially more of a personal project. The production on Sing Thy Unholy Servants actually is really good. This is not one of those typical, basement, recorded with a Walkman in your pocket kind of sound at all. It's got a really good sound. And while there's a lot of unusual parts to it, it all does work really good. It creates a great atmosphere with the different sound effects, different voices and such. The music manages to be cinematic without feeling cheesy or dramatic at all. And it still has, a lot of, just, black metal, in its roots. So yeah, this one still to me stands out as something very different. I haven't come across something that feels like, oh yeah, there's somebody doing exactly the same thing Wind in the Black Mountains did. But has held up really well listening to it in recent years. I know they didn't record a ton of other material. For whatever it's worth, I also like this picture a lot with the big staff kind of thing he's holding. There's some more hilarious pictures. We'll just leave it at that associated with this project. But yeah,
one of which are on here. I won't show the back cover, but here's
there's some of them are in the booklet here too. But yeah, this one I just always thought was a very cool picture. But yeah, just everything about this one, from the packaging, the band name, it all kind of hints at, this is going to be a different style project. And it really is. And it's got, just a very unique atmosphere. Yeah, and Jeff's another one that, passed away very early. So there's not a ton of material from the band, which is a shame. It would have been interesting to see what he would have done had he had the opportunity to, keep recording over the years. But, Daniel, I think that was on your list tonight too. So sorry if I stole that one off your.
No, I'm glad to see that. The combination of weird and violent, that is the intersection I live at. So I'm into that.
Well, Alan opened the door on this, and Wind of the Black Mountains was a Michigan band, and I'm from Michigan as well. But all of it, I didn't research to see which came first here, but we'll start with probably Masochist. This band was early US black metal, Michigan band. They played a lot, partied a lot, and they splintered into other bands. One of which this band I saw quite a bit actually is Summon from the Lansing area. This is the Fire Turns Everything Black and their Dark Descent of Fallen Souls debut.
Yeah, they did several albums, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Quite a few actually, 5 or 6.
Like 5 or 6.
Yeah, something like that. But these guys were absolutely, the drunker they were, the better they were live. It was crazy, like super fast, a lot of thrash infused black metal, but they were just licking the fires of hell for sure. And one band I saw quite a bit that was also in the loop here was Lucifer's Hammer. These guys were more of the doomy black metal variety, but oh my God, this Mists of Time album, very much influenced by Viking era Bathory, but with the black metal vocals and the keyboards are a little bit more evil than Bathory would do, but still that plotting, there's a good atmosphere swirling around in this music. But this I picked up at a show in Detroit area. This is the Burning Church demo. This is one of their demos, one of the last ones, I think. This thing is awesome. It's so heavy, so well written. Nuclear War Now reissued this and another demo on vinyl here. I say a couple years ago, it could have been 10. I don't know. I'm in a bubble. I don't really know. Like 5 years ago, that book was written. Fuck, I couldn't believe it. Anyway, Lucifer's Hammer. There's a lot of incestuous things happening that all kind of came out of Masochist and Lucifer's Hammer. I know members of Summon were in Lucifer's Hammer, and Jeff Elrod was in Lucifer's Hammer for a minute. So it's like very incestuous Southern Michigan scene, and all of it is really raw and really good. Definitely check it out. Michigan there were some other bands from Michigan too, which I have not. Ariok was another one. I have never heard them. There's also some great death metal. Band Fatal from Southern Michigan. Oh my God, absolutely crushing, great old school death metal band. Kind of thrashy, kind of proto death, really, but I think I got all the Michigan stuff here. Great. There is other Michigan stuff, but I'm going to show that at the end. We'll get there later. Daniel.
Yeah, the combo, oh my gosh, the Masochist and Wind of the Black Mountains combo. Those both hit me about the same time. That Masochist compilation of like all that recorded stuff.
Yep.
It's just crazy to like dig through all of it.
Yep.
Yeah. So the next band I wanted to talk about is Chris Griggs' band.
Super nice dude.
Oh my gosh, he's he's definitely one of my favorite people. And his approach to songwriting, to playing, it's just so interesting. He makes such cool music, all from a very like idiosyncratic place. I think that first Woe record, Spell for the Death of Man, is incredible. After that, even Chris will say that he was exploring a lot of things, and so there are maybe a couple albums where he's not quite like he thinks he got most of the way to what he wanted them to sound like, but then a couple years ago, Hope Attrition, when that came out, that was just burning things down. I think Hope Attrition is an extraordinary record. And then he just, I guess, a couple years ago put out, Legacies of Frailty. And then once he was out touring that record with a full band, they decided to get into the studio and re-record those songs as a full band. So he just released kind of an update of his most recent record, Legacies of Human Frailty. All of that is worth getting into. Makes really interesting music, really violent. I think he's an important touchstone for what U.S. black metal can sound like.
All right. Great band. Alan.
All right. Just kind of working through some of the bigger names. I'll get to more random ones. I'm glad some folks were interested in Wind of the Black Mountain. I don't know how well that band was known, but several folks sounded interested in checking them out, so that's great. Next on the stack, I've got Krieg with the Black House. Now, I do not know the entire Krieg catalog. Won't pretend to do. I know bits and pieces of it. An album. I've got 3 albums and maybe a split somewhere. But Black House has a reputation as the album where Neil kind of brings in more musicians, is getting input from other folks. It's moving past that crazy one man and a dream kind of project, really getting input from more people, and the music starts sounding a lot tighter and a lot fiercer. And that's one of the things you notice right away on this album. It's it sounds like the cover looks. It's very, very dark and very isolated. He also takes a turn here lyrically things are a lot more sort of inner focused rather than just following up on, the usual black metal tropes, which were pretty common on earlier Krieg releases. One thing, though, I think that really makes Black House stand out is that while there's tons of songs on here that really are just, very unrelenting, roaring black metal, there is variation on the album, too. You get some different tracks that, are going at a slower pace. You get some little parts here and there that sound very doomy. It's probably best exemplified by the fact that, there's a cover on here. It's Velvet Underground's Venus and Furs. And to be honest, Velvet Underground is just not the band for me. I've checked it out. I understand it's, a seminal work. It's just not for me. But I really like the way Neil arranged his take on Venus and Furs. I'm like, that's actually really interesting, and it fits with the aesthetic of this album. So it doesn't just feel like a random choice, or it doesn't feel like a cover's like, oh, here's a song people know that'll, get a few mentions on blabbermouth.com or something. It's like, no, that actually really, really works for everything he's doing here. It makes perfect sense and is executed really well. So yeah, Krieg, of course, plenty of albums, tons of splits. Neil's been, one of these central figures in the scene. Another one of these, big characters that we've mentioned several times that helped legitimize the scene, spread the word, so to speak. And yeah, Black House, I think, was one of the big works from Krieg. So I had to mention them.
I'm going to follow up on your Krieg here. I'm with you. I think the Black House is probably the safe bet is their best. It's got Andrew Harris from Judas Iscariot on it, and there's that vibe. You can tell he's in the mix of it. For me, the first Krieg I ever heard, and to this day, it's still my favorite, Rise of the Imperial Hordes. I know Neil probably would disagree with me here after rereading his chunk in the book where he doesn't like it. Man, I put this on. I used to listen to this a lot. In fact, I interviewed Neil back in the day for Worm Gear, and I think I told him how much I told him in person how much I like this record. He didn't grump at me too much because I bought him a beer, but man, putting this on again, it all came back, and knowing how reading in the book, he and another guy recorded the music for this without a drummer and without a click.
Yeah, they did it backwards.
And then they had the drummer for Bloodstorm, who was a Philadelphia-based band, may or may not.
I remember Bloodstorm. There's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Come in and try to improv piece together some sort of a drum performance over it. And oddly enough, he did a great job. He's a very busy drummer. There's a lot of really cool fills and all this. It's a very exciting sounding record, but really takes the cake for me is Neil's voice is just absolutely unhinged on this thing. He is from yowling to screaming to whatever, black metal, orthodox black metal type screams to just completely, it sounds like a guy losing his freaking mind. And the way he places these transitions, these different vocal styles throughout the music it's fucking very inventive. It's very great. And the music itself, very much rooted in old school black metal, but there's some really cool, harmony melody lines happening. The riffs are really good. It's really unfortunate that they didn't lay down the drums first and actually do it the right way. Then it would have been a bit better, but regardless of the fact that they did it ass backwards and the timing is, the drummer comes in and it falls out of time every once in a while because obviously the bass and the guitars were not played in time to anything. So the guy did an amazing job. It only falls apart a few times, but really it adds to the charm of this. It's kind of like that early Judas Iscariot stuff where it's so bad. It's kind of endearing, kind of cool. I don't know. I've always really, this is a very dark record, you got samples mixed in. It's like, it doesn't feel like a woodland black metal album. It feels like a broke in the city. How in the fuck I'm eating out of a dumpster type of black metal. And it isn't like the New York black metal, like bands like Negative Plane, where you could feel the darkness resonating off the skyscrapers. It's just a different down on your luck. Things are shitty black metal. I don't know. it's always been a high point in Neil's catalog for me. I know he would disagree, but fucking A, man. What a great record. What a great record. I'm just going to move on from there.
Sure.
Daniel.
Yeah, no, man. You talk about Neil's vocals, and it reminded me of the collaboration he did with The Body, and hearing Neil and his vocals trading off with Chip from The Body. It is just a sonic version of a mental breakdown. All of that is so interesting. I particularly, and I'll probably get into this more later, but like I particularly like really noisy stuff. So that that collaboration with The Body really worked for me. There are definite. Alan, you said you don't know the whole Krieg discography. There are definite eras to that discography. Very different reasons for listening to different recordings.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, super cool stuff. Speaking of Neil and the many hats he's worn as a performer, as a kind of a guy who gathers other black metal musicians together, but also as a guy who has run a record label, somebody who released music on Neil's label, Zaster.
Oh, yeah.
Zaster is another one of those, for me, kind of a foundational USBM project. Very early on, when I was listening to black metal, I was listening to Zaster. And that stuff is so... when I talk about like American music, yeah, man. That's so good. That record's so good. When I talk about American black metal turning itself inward, coiling in on itself, and not being rock oriented, man, Zaster is the epitome of that. I love everything that Marty is showing, like all this stuff. Subliminal Genocide might have been the place that I got in on Zaster, but then digging through all of it, oh my god, I should just shut up and like let you.
No, keep talking. I'll be your visual aids part of the.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. As you're showing right now, Zaster often gets mentioned with Leviathan because of that split, because of their approach to music.
That's all I have.
That stuff is awesome. A lot of Zaster, one of the things that I find interesting about that music is that a lot of it's played on guitar the way metal is supposed to be played, but it almost sounds like it was composed, and I say sounds like, I know that a lot of this is true. It was composed on keyboard, so you get almost piano sounding music, but it's been translated to guitars, and so it creates a weird kind of sound that nobody else has, which I really appreciate. I really think that's cool. I am not, admittedly, much of a fan of the more recent acoustic Zaster music. It hasn't meant much to me, and I'm actually a little worried that being able to understand the lyrics that are being sung has a negative effect on my opinion. But I really love the black metal stuff.
Yep. And talk about cold and miserable. It sounds like music composed by somebody very broken. It just does.
Yeah. It's understandable why the whole, depressive suicidal tag came into being in large part around Zaster. I know the artists never liked that tag, but it makes sense the way they sound. It really does.
Yep.
Yeah. And Marty, I remember you reviewing Nocturnal Poisoning back in the Worm Gear days. I was like, that's interesting. So yeah, I had to go track that down based on your review back then.
Right on. All right. You're back.
All right. let's talk about one of the kind of the classics of band that did not last very long, but they seem to have a huge impact. It's one of those cases, like the Sex Pistols, early gigs where only maybe 25 people heard them, but all 25 went on to do something really important, either start a band or a fanzine or something. I feel like the same thing kind of happened with the audience of Weakling. So Dead as Dreams is one that's on the stack to talk about here. It seems like they really didn't last very long. There's not a ton of stuff out there, but again, kind of in the right place at the right time, there with the Bay Area scene in the late 90s, to really get noticed by just the right crowd of people who could pick up what they started and then keep advancing it. This was one of those albums that I didn't get to hear for a long time. It was always talked about very reverently. And I'll admit, the contrarian streak in me was kind of like, come on, can it really be that good? You guys are busting a nut over this thing. Is it really going to be that good? Then I heard it, yeah, that's actually that good. Damn. The long song compositions that, go on forever. You look at it and it's like, are they just going to be noodling around or just doing like the same trancy, hypnotic, riff for, 10 minutes at a time? No, it's really engaging music you can get very deep into and is, just really fantastic. Again, there's issues here. Unfortunately, it's not gotten a reissue, and at least in the foreseeable future, it's not going to happen. We can hope that people change their minds sometime and make it more available. This is one I have to thank Marty for. I had been trying to get a copy of this for a while, and Marty was able to, finally land a copy for me and get me hooked.
Vertigo Records, under $10 in the used bin. I couldn't believe it. I bought it. I had it already, but I bought them like, someone needs this. I'm not gonna let that sit here. I know, I know the scarcity of it. So yeah.
Yep. It's like I will let you make a fair chunk of money off of me.
I said you're not. No, you're taking it.
And you wouldn't accept it. And
no.
That was very, very kind of you. So yeah, it still has your sticker on the case.
How much was it? $5.99.
That's wild.
Vertigo Records, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Cheers! Shout out to Herm.
Yeah,
what a great store.
Yeah. But so one of those kind of cult underground albums that really, really does live up to its hype, and those are the rare moments that you really got to stop and enjoy. I just hope it becomes more readily available for folks in the future.
Following up on that record, I have not listened to that thing in ages, and I threw it in this week. Blown away by the first song. First song, the rest of the album is not as good as that first song. I hate to say it. The whole album is really good. Don't get me wrong. The middle drags a bit for me, but that first song, holy fuck, what a absolute triumph of a song. It's just so interesting and exciting, and wow, doesn't sound like anybody. It's really, really good. Really good.
Yeah, people talk about how good the record is, and it's a mistake to think that means that Weakling and this Dead as Dreams record just appears as a fully formed, perfectly functional thing. It's not. It has weaknesses. But that is endearing. Like it's got exceptional music on it too. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, that there doesn't take away from the album, but I just wish that intensity from the first song carried on through, the middle chunk at least. It still great, and it really does deserve a repress. Why isn't? I don't know. Whatever. Why ask why, right?
I mean, the why is pretty well known, and it's too bad. And yeah, hopefully, as Alan said, hopefully minds will change.
Yep. All right. Well, this band we talked about, Daniel mentioned them earlier, but I was late to the underground. I was a little late to tape trading because I lived up in northern Michigan and was I felt separated from that whole late getting to it. We'll just go there. But I remember starting to get mail and buying stuff through distros and tape trading. And every time you would open up an envelope, all the mail flyers would fall out. There was no internet. So the way you advertise every time bands would send out millions of flyers to be spread through the mail system with people's outgoing packages. One that would always fall out, and I was always looking very interested at it, was Journey into Horizons Lost, the demo from Black Funeral. Michael Ford, as we talked about earlier. This is an Iron Bonehead reissue of the Journey into Horizons Lost and of Spells of Darkness and Death, 94 and 95. It was just, a picture of Michael Ford on basically, it might have been that picture actually, on the ad. And there was also his noise ambient thing called Darkness and Shroud. Also a million of those labels, flyers as well. And it's okay. But I finally hearing Black Funeral, this is the Vampire Throne of the Beast. Is that the name of this thing? Yep, Throne of the Beast. We got the Full Moon Productions and the Drakkar pressings of it. And I know they re-recorded the album. I don't think this is it, the Empire of Blood. This is the second album, I believe. I don't know. There's a thing. They redid some of the tracks. I don't know if I have that version, but he would always get guest musicians. I think he played bass and he would be a part of it as well. But another band that he did death vocals for in a death metal band would be Black Funeral for him, essentially. And yeah, man, it's really good stuff. There's some stuff that's a little rough around the edges. It's very raw, very underproduced, just the way you kind of want that type of music. I think it's the second song on this album. It's just fantastic. The riffs are so good. And I think because you've got guys that are coming from the death metal scene doing their adaptation on what black metal is, the riffs at times get a little bit more lively, a little bit less focused on droning dissonant riffs. And there's actually some note melody lines and stuff going through some of it. But, Michael Ford's voice is completely grim, awesome. And yeah, he's had a long career of doing it with a break in the middle. Some of his middle era albums are all drum machine driven. I appreciate the mad scientist vibe behind it, but some of them are better than others. And now he is working with Asgore, I believe is his name, from Drowning the Light. They've rekindled Black Funeral and have put out a couple records and an EP, I think. But it's starting to sound a bit more like Drowning the Light. But that's, if you like Drowning the Light, great. But there's so many Drowning the Light records. But this is a great US project. This could have been passed off as a European too. This doesn't really have the US sound, but I don't know. Good. If you're into the undergrounds, black metal stuff, this early Black Funeral shit is really good. And Daniel's next. I will be right back.
Sure, yeah. I'm just gonna talk real quick a little bit more about Black Funeral because I'm so impressed by Michael W. Ford. Yes, musically, a lot of that stuff is really interesting. I think what's so impressive to me is that it's so connected to his spiritual pursuits. And how he's a Luciferian and he's written a ton of books, and Black Funeral is far from his only music project and even metal project. He's got his fingers in just a bunch of different types of musical projects, but they're all in some way related to his spiritual exploration, personal growth in that direction. It's all very high concept, and he's fully committed to that concept. And I just, I don't, I don't share all the interests that he does. He's so deeply into it. I've worked on reading a couple of his books, and it's extremely dense. I think because the actual reading is supposed to be, almost Luciferian practice in itself, not just that you're learning about it, but the reading is supposed to put you in this state of mind. It's very dense and very difficult, but I just find it impressive. It's a commitment to do all that. Yeah. So veering totally aside from that,
Luciferian. Sorry, I was going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Luciferian stuff. That's like vampires and stuff. I think he's got one of those fascination with the romanticism of vampires? Is that part of the Luciferian
I don't.
stuff?
I mean, that might be part of it.
Blood
It's
worship
so
type.
but it's a lot more about deities, like from ancient cultures in various parts of the world, but what those deities mean, or how they manifest in the human spirit, and how almost like different, whether it's mystical monsters or like I said, spiritual deities, how we can use their qualities to experience a fuller life ourselves. I'm not good at explaining it because I don't understand it, but it is pretty multifaceted and it goes pretty deep.
Interesting. Cool. All right. Sorry to interrupt you. I
No.
I could hear you talk. I'm like, damn it. I wish I was in there right now. I just want to hear what he has to say here. Okay. We're good.
Yeah, cool. So I live in a pretty small town area, pretty far away from any interesting music scene. And so when I was digging around at a record shop, I was blown away to find a copy of this Mastery LP. This
Never heard
is
them.
okay. So it's Steve Peacock, who he plays in Ulthar. He plays in Spirit Possession. He played in Pale Chalice. He has another, like, almost like an experimental, what's the word I'm looking for? Like almost an improvisational black metal project called Pandiscordia Necrogenesis. This stuff is
I'm shouting that in the crowd. Doesn't work.
Yeah. This is a hard listen. This is not. I mean, if we're talking about Black Funeral being kind of archetypical or archetypal black metal, this is black metal. It definitely is, but it definitely veers more toward the Krallis side of things. It's hyper specific in the way that it's produced, and the songwriting is strange, and you really gotta want to stick with it. But I love what Steve Peacock does. I love his stuff. I was really excited to find a copy of this because I think this record is really very cool. So it's called. Did I say that? It's the project called. The project is called Mastery.
Okay. It's a very unassuming black metal album cover too. I don't know that I would be like, oh, what's this off the counter? I'd probably flip right by it, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Alan.
All right. Let's see. All right. Let's cover this one next. Another project that's been pretty central to the development of US black metal, and especially in terms of getting it to a higher level of visibility, which came with a lot of polarization, of course, is Blake Judd's Noctimistium project. Evolved from pretty primitive raw kind of style on the early recordings, and got more atmospheric and more varied over time. It was right around the time where this one came out. It's just an EP, Eulogy. It wasn't the first thing I heard by Noctimistium, but it was the first time where it was like, that's a project that's now doing something really unique, kind of different. The early ones I liked, but it was like, pretty good, but standard-ish black metal. And here I'm like, wow, he's really changing, but still having a solid black metal core. And of course, Noctimistium would go to bigger and better things. Now, of course, I know Blake is very polarizing, ripped a lot of people off. I get all that. I get why to this day a lot of people
bad.
Can't stand the guy. However, the project did a lot to introduce more people to black metal, and I think it did a lot to help, again, sort of legitimize US black metal as doing its own things. Blake in particular, by like the Addicts albums, was incorporating more psychedelics and stuff into the sound and doing it pretty effectively, at least in my opinion. The album's got a lot more distribution, of course, working with Century Media. And so it was, one of those rare times where you had someone come out of this scene that, relatively blew up, at least by heavy metal terms. And so, yeah, and not everyone likes those albums. And a lot of people are never going to give him the time of day because of the stuff he pulled. Nevertheless, it is a big part of expanding the horizons for black metal in the US. Obviously, things went, very south through the 2010s. I did think the album he did a couple of years ago, there was sort of a minor comeback, was actually very good. And he was still incorporating some new ideas into the music. He had a little bit of sort of a darker country or Western vibe to a couple of songs, almost touching on like what Wayfarer has done. And it works really well. So, I mean, he's still not afraid, to try some different things. It wasn't just a back to basics album. It wasn't just let's try to do black metal part 3 because that sold well. The most recent one had its own identity and worked pretty well. But I also understand why it's going to have trouble getting traction. Say what you will about the guy. I thought a lot of the music from Nocmistian's project has been really interesting. And obviously, again, like we said at the start, you have to mention some of these things when you're talking about the subject. Nocmistian's one it'd be very awkward to talk around and pretend it didn't happen because it was a big, big name on the scene for several years there.
All right. Well, pretty early on, America was dipping into the whole black metal thing, and we're going to Boston, Massachusetts for a band that didn't make the book, December Wolves. This is the Wolf Tread demo. Yeah. This is an excellent demo, and this is a band that didn't really try to cultivate an American sound. This is very influenced by what's going on in Scandinavia, I would say. I wouldn't say it's a direct Scandinavian reboot, but it's got the vibe here in their debut full length, Till 10 Years. It's a really good, solid, well-written, a lot of good atmosphere to it, good vocals, and the drummer used to do a zine called Curse of the Chains. Scott DeFusco was his name. Very good stuff, all old school, some Graveland in there. Grand Belial's Key. He was covering all the hits nowadays, right? Demon Sea. But yeah, very cool Xerox zine back in the day. And the band started to evolve away from the Scandinavian sound, and their second full-length album completely dehumanized. This album, holy shit, this thing is absolutely ferocious, caustic. There's a bit more of a modern twist to it. Very fast. They've departed from the atmosphere, the woodland thing. Right here, you feel like you're in the city and there's people chasing you type of thing. This is the type of album this is here. But the album is very interesting. It almost feels like a grindcore record, but with a black metal, a mechanized black metal sheen to it. But always really liked this. When they continued on afterwards, I kind of lost the plot for me a little bit, but the demo is great. The first debut is awesome if you like more Scandinavian style black metal, and this one here feels like they kind of come into their own sound here. I know members of this band went on to be in the band Watchmaker, which is kind of a, I don't know what you call it, noise rock grind.
Yeah. Y'all did one of their albums for
we did,
didn't you?
It was rough. It was rough. I didn't care for it, to be honest. But
is it rougher than what you've picked for next week?
Nope. I'd listen to Watchmaker all week long. Again, no problem. Other than that, the Luvid Morbid Angel album. But anyway, back at you, Dan. Sorry, I had to pick that, everybody. All the people doing your homework for album club, sorry, but I thought it would be a fun exercise to pick an album that was largely hated. All right.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned December Wolves. You are right that there was no place for a whole section on December Wolves in the book, but there's a good like full paragraph about exactly the records you were mentioning in the Agalloch section of the book, because the guys in Agalloch talked to me a bunch about their love for December Wolves. And so I found a way to shoehorn that into
Right on.
someplace in there. Yeah.
Good band. Good band.
So the next band I want to bring up, I'm gonna kind of put Marty and Bindrune on the spot a little bit, because of one of my, just incomparable, absolute favorite bands, Panopticon.
One of my favorite people on the planet too.
Yeah,
Dear friend.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a bunch of vinyl, some of which I bought, some of which Austin has given to me. Some he tried to give to me, and I told him I was going to buy it anyway because I can pay for things. So yeah, I mean, these are some of my favorites. Panopticon, for people who don't listen to Panopticon, who have just kind of heard about Panopticon, the perception of the band, I think, is far different than the actuality of that music. This concept that, like, well, Kentucky and it's folk metal and sure, but like, there's so much more to what Panopticon is offering, to what Austin is giving of himself and putting out into the world. From like the first couple records I showed, how personal they are. My favorite Panopticon record just keeps shifting day to day, kind of thing. Sometimes, Social Disservices is so painful. It is an absolute open wound, and when I need that in my life, in my ears, it lands so hard. I also think that And Again Into the Light has some of my favorite musical moments ever on it. In fact, I would say the whole Laurentian trilogy itself is exceptional music. Bringing Charlie Anderson into the fold to like just amplify.
That was a win. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It takes everything that Panopticon is and makes it so like mind-blowing. I did that Hall of Fame article for Autumn Eternal, which, I'll be honest, was not a go-to Panopticon record for me. I know tons of people adore that album, but it actually took working on that article for me to dive in and really connect more to that record. I might be more of a Roads to the North guy as far as that goes. But anyway, I cannot say enough good things about the whole Panopticon discography. I love it. I love Austin. I love the other guys in the band. Like, that's the other thing. Like, when he goes on tour, he takes people with him who are awesome. So
yeah, he does. We're all good dudes. And I think I don't know if he knows why it blew up like it did, but it wasn't until really Kentucky that the band started taking off. And, I've talked about it on here before, the fact that, metal musicians, a lot of them can tinker with other ideas, but it always feels when you try to incorporate a different musical genre in with metal, the metal guys get it, but they only get an idea of how to do it. It never sounds like a full integration. When you listen to stuff like Kentucky, the bluegrass sounds like it needs to be there. He somehow integrated a completely unrelatable to metal style in with the metal, and it works. And you got protest songs mixed with emotional diatribes, and man, he nailed it. And the fact that he's another one of those guys that's so completely talented, every instrument he touches he can play other than the fiddle, and he can play it, and he is just so prolific and creative. So there's a reason why Panopticon's big. He's a very humble guy. He's a very good guy, and he writes from a very emotional place that a lot of people, it's like holding up a mirror. They can see themselves in the messages he's relating musically, sonically. So I get it.
Yeah.
And just,
Yeah, great points all around. And yeah, Marty, to your point, I think the reason it worked so well when he incorporated that is, he was a fan of that style of music and understood that style of music. It wasn't just he wasn't a metal guy who got to like 22 years old and suddenly discovered bluegrass and then tried to shoehorn it in. He was somebody who was well versed in both these styles his whole life. And so when he tried to meld them, he knew what each one was capable of, what their limitations were, so he could figure out, how to put them together the way most people wouldn't. So it makes perfect sense.
Yep.
And I love Daniel's descriptions of Panopticon's catalog. Yeah, I think at this point, a lot of people associate it with the whole Cascadian sound and such, but different albums have very different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Social Disservices is such a bleak, dark record. I mean, people want to, hold up, all these, albums about, Satan and devils and stuff as evil. So it's like, no, that's fine. But if you want something that's really dark and evil, try reading the lyrics to Social Disservices sometime. That's just, horrific. But then you have stuff like On the Subject of Mortality. And yes, that's just like, it's an open letter into like, here's what happened, with my relationship with my mom and my dad dying. It's just like, holy crap, that's not the kind of thing people do in heavy metal. Heavy metal is usually heroic escapism. It's
rebellion.
It's rebellion. It's
Satan.
taking, these very strong stances. It's dying on this hill. It's not here's how, I tried to process, this really important person in my life just being gone, and just spelling it out that way, not steeping it in metaphor, not writing it in between the lines or anything. So both those albums, they're not the albums that are best known, but they're both just emotionally monstrous albums in different ways.
Well,
and I would say, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like you talk about how like raw and not steeped in metaphor on the subject of mortality is, but the fact that it references and uses the Seventh Seal to kind of thread that, like the Seventh Seal, which is more broadly about death, and how Austin can tap into that and make it more personal. It's exceptional art.
Oh, agreed. Yep.
Another thing that, it's easy to lump him in with US black metal, but I think a long time ago, Panopticon there's still black metal at its core, but I think he's kind of evolved out of the simple classification of black metal. It isn't because of all the influences he puts in. The spirit of it is different. He loves black metal. He loves straight up black metal, but there's just something different about the Panopticon sound. And, knowing him, and Death is one of his favorite bands, and he'll tell me like, "Oh, did you hear that Death riff in there? That thing I did is very Chuck." And, he's, he's coming at writing music that a lot of people lump into black metal from a very non-black metal mindset. And, being so revealing in your emotions and dealing with death. And it's so alien from what the core tenets of black metal are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
that's interesting with Death too, because that's what something Chuck did. After the first few albums, Chuck became very introspective and very personal with his stuff, which is a big reason so many people gravitate towards his catalog. Yeah, so there's a parallel there for sure.
Right on. Shout out to Austin. Alan.
Okay. Let's see. Well, while we're talking, let's do this one next. We haven't brought up Wolves in the Throne Room, so high time. They're associated with the whole Cascadian branch of the US black metal family tree. Cool project, one of the craziest logos that you can come across. This one, I had heard of the band. I was looking to pick up something by the band. I found this in a record store. Actually, it wasn't this. It was Celestial, that album. And I would remember standing there in the record store looking at the logo. I'm just like, what is this? And the fact that, I had never seen the band's logo, but I'm like, it's at the end of the alphabet. It was in that W section. And I'm sitting there in the store for like 5 minutes trying to piece together letters. I'm like, I'm going to assume it says Wolves in the Throne Room and go ahead and buy it. And if it's something else, well, they got me. But it was actually Wolves in the Throne Room. But yeah, another band that has had a lot of success. One of the bigger names in U.S. black metal that started out having a very kind of formula to the albums, where it was just a handful of songs on each, long compositions. Sometimes they'd have a shorter one, but it would just serve as maybe more of an interlude. And they followed that pattern for a couple of albums, but more recently they've gotten away from that. And this is one of those cases where I feel like, as much as the early stuff is very good, Two Hunters is great, like Celestial Lineage and stuff, but I really do feel like this band, even now with their Relapse releases, is just as good as they've ever been. I'm not going to go as far as to say they're better now, but I don't think they've lost anything when they've changed the formula. It's easy to think, oh, they're on Relapse, they've sold out. Oh, the songs are all kind of standard length now. All of the material is still extremely top notch. This is, again, just a 4-track EP from a couple of years ago. And it's some of my favorite songs they've put together on any of their releases. And yes, I know, again, a lot of people will disparage these guys. People like to make, the trust fund comments and all that kind of stuff. But okay, that doesn't change the fact that, they've written, some really incredible music over the years. The catalog is, has its variations. They did, of course, the one more instrumental kind of out there album, but they still put out, really quality black metal. They're not just rehashing the same album every time. I think it's a band whose catalog holds up extremely well from beginning to end. And the fact that they have been relatively successful at it, great. I have no problem with that. I know some people hate it when bands break out of the underground, but I don't feel there's been any drop in quality from Wolves since they did that. So power to them. I hope they have something new out in the near future. Thoughts on Wolves in the Throne Room?
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love that stuff. You showed Two Hunters right up front. That's a definite favorite. I love Black Cascade. Yep. I think I agree with you. There's not been a fall off in quality. In fact, I think there are a couple songs on the most recent record that are worthy of being favorite Wolves in the Throne Room songs. Really, really cool stuff on there. Like for years, I was hearing about this Wolves in the Throne Room band that like they have like a commune farm out on the West Coast, and it's like it's mysterious and whatever. Anyway, on my trip around the country, I got to visit the farm and hang out a little bit, and that was an absolute trip.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I find myself not listening to them much anymore, but there was a hot minute. The first 3 albums in particular. The one album is like an EP. It's got the lady singing on the one song. I don't know. I really enjoyed that too. Can't remember the name of that record. I don't know. They're a band. What's that?
No, I know what you're talking about. Does it have grain in the title?
Yeah.
I should know this off the top of my head.
Yeah, Malevolent Grain.
Grain, oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Really like that too. And I kind of stopped. I picked up a later album and it just didn't really get to me like the early stuff. Diadem, I was really a big fan of. Really like that record a lot. Of course, Two Hunters is fantastic. Black Cascade. Early stuff I'm a little bit more in line with, and what I kind of lost touch a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it happens with bands. And yeah, I like Lady Metal's comment here. The fact that people are picking up different albums as their favorite. I agree. I think that's one of the things that really sets your great bands apart from the good bands. There are lots of good bands, but in some cases, like everyone's just picking the same 1 or 2 albums. It's like, they've got 10, they made 10 albums, but everybody just knows the same one or two. It's like, okay, that's fine. But when you see people picking like 7 different albums out of a band's catalog and saying, this one's my favorite, it's like, oh, that's cool, but that one is my favorite. And they spread out. I feel like a lot of times that really shows you the bands that aren't just consistent, but, they're doing something really, really strong over a long period of time, that people will gravitate to such different albums.
All right. I guess it's my turn. This band is nothing great or very special, but I remember when this record came out, I did spend some time with it. And, there's different subgenres within black metal, like any style, bigger style of metal. There's always a subgenre. Well, there's something called DSBM, depressive suicidal black metal. And this band, project, I Shall Become with Wanderings. Not something I've really, I touched on it a bit this week to re-familiarize myself, but I remember when it came out, I was big time into it. Not that I was depressed or anything, but I just really like that down on your luck, really at the bottom of the barrel kind of dissonance and melancholy. Spinning it this week, I don't know that it's held up that well over the years. The drum programming is just clip, clop, clip, clop. I mean, really bare minimum. He's going more for that droning, dissonant essence to drag you down, which it works. It's good. The drums leave a little bit to be desired after all these years, but another moribund Cult Records release, and he put out quite a few albums. I don't know if it's still a project that's going, but this early stuff, this Wanderings, and I think there's another one called Poison. It was really good as well. So if you're into that suicidal black metal stuff, this is early. It's early in that whole razor blade hemisphere. So check it out if you're into that type of stuff. It's not world rocking metal, and if you're expecting that, then you're going to be disappointed. But if you're into that downtrodden melancholy, maybe check out I Shall Become. All right.
Yeah.
Daniel.
Yeah, I shall become went in some pretty different directions later on too. So at this point, I'm gonna do my damnedest to crash this conversation. I don't want to, but I might have to. There's this project that I got a hold of because the record label Crucial Blast, that is actually headquartered like a half hour's drive west of me, put out or reissued a record or a compilation, and it's so disturbingly amazing. The project is called Enbilulu Gugal. It is noisy. It is corroded. It's like punk music that's like too noisy to be considered music. It edges toward black metal. The dude who makes this stuff or made this stuff, he has an EP called Not a Black Metal Band, so I probably shouldn't even be bringing them up. But
what is the name of the project again?
It's Enbilulu Gugal. I can spell it. But it has more letters than I feel like I can. Yeah. Anyway,
I'll add it to the chat here in just a minute for folks because I think I've got it typed out somewhere handy.
Cool. Again, this is one of those bands that like I think me and one other guy in the world probably listens to this. It's awful. Like this compilation I have, there are like 29 tracks of just noisy, ear-drilling crap. And then there are 29 more tracks of the less metal versions. It's absurd. I love it so much.
Simon says it sounds like baby's first words.
Yeah.
I saw this on your list that you had emailed earlier, Daniel. So it's like, okay, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to need to be able to type that later. So I kept it handy.
I think when I wrote about it, I called it tuberculosis etched on plastic.
Right on.
So folks are taking a stab at it.
Yeah.
All right, Alan.
All right. Well, Daniel picked an odd personal favorite. I'm going to pick an odd personal favorite. Never hear this band mentioned much, but they made 3 albums to date, and I've enjoyed all 3 of them. It's a project from Atlanta called Galder. This is one I only have digital copies of, so I have to show it on the phone. But yeah, this is a cover of the first one, which is self-titled. Came out 2011, 2013. It's a 2010s project, although he did release a split maybe 2023. So like I said, still around doing a few things. Galder's pretty easy to describe. It's very much working in the Burzum mold, going for that kind of bleak, very tortured, but also very atmospheric kind of sound. And I mean, you get that from the aesthetics on the cover here without too much trouble. And even though in a way it's a stereotypical black metal cover, I do like this one. The figure is, very, isolated. There's no emphasis here trying to make the figure look cool or necro or cult or anything. It's just like, no, there's just one person out there in this big, completely barren kind of winter landscape. And that is exactly what the music sounds like. This album begins with there's an intro and an outro piece that are similar. It's a lot of haunting wind sounds. And while it's going for that Burzum aesthetic, it's not trying to sound overly lo-fi. The music actually has, a decent amount of, depth to the tone of it. There are tons of bands that have tried to, follow in Varg's footsteps. I felt like this first Galder album did a really good job of it. A lot of Burzum clones, it's like you hear it, you know what they're doing. It kind of goes in one ear and out the other for me, but Galder was one that I felt was worth following up. Now, on the next couple of albums, he's still working in that same area, but the sound does change. The second album here, Ancient Lights from the Stars, has a very different cover. Now, this same kind of woodcut image has been used on other albums over the years. On the Galder one, it's got kind of a bluish tint. It's showing up a little bit there. But it's got a very pretty and comes across as a much more kind of tranquil, serene kind of atmosphere. And the music is that way too. It still has the Burzumisms, but it's cleaned up. There's no ambient wind howling at you here. This does not sound like it was recorded with a microphone about 3 doors down the hallway. This one's a lot cleaner. And if the first Galder album kind of sounds like, maybe Det som Engardvard, this one sounds closer to Philosophem territory. So different, but still really, really nicely done. And then there's a third album. The third album, if I remember right, was recorded before the second one, but it got released after the second one. So it's a little out of place. It has a title. I'm not even going to. He has a third album. You can look it up on Metal Archives. I will not butcher the title. It makes sense when you hear it that this one should come between the other two because sonically it fits in that space. When I first heard this one, I'm like, it kind of feels like he's going to something a little more primitive than what Ancient Stars had. Oh, wait, okay, he recorded it before he recorded that one. So even though it's third in the discography, it's second in terms of recording chronology. So yeah, Galder, not a big name project or anything like that, but 3 albums and 3 that I've enjoyed a bit. So felt like if I was going to include a few unknown personal favorites, Galder was one I wanted to bring up.
All right. Another band of a guy. There's a guy in this band that sadly passed away, but I think these guys are from Alabama. I could be wrong. Bloodstained Dusk. This is the Dirge of Death Silence album, and oh my god, Continuance of Evil. So I was kind of into this one quite a bit when it came out. Refamiliarized myself with it this week. American take on the Emperor vibe. They don't really try to hide it. They're not quite as impactful with the synth layers, but the vocals sound very much like Isan, early like Anthem's era, or even Nightside. This is a band that there's another. They had a couple other albums. These are the only two I owned, but solid band, really well done. They weren't doing anything necessarily original, but their take on it was good. Good. They didn't let the sound down at all. But yeah, I can't remember how the guy passed away, a heart attack or car accident. I don't recall, but a solid band nonetheless. Don't really hear anybody talk about it. Although Peter from Ireland showing one of the albums in the chat today in the Discord server. So people still listen to him, I guess. I hadn't spun it in a hot minute. You're back.
All right. Hang on, I just realized I'm looking for a thing that one of the projects that I'm never quite sure if this is one of the ones that's politically okay to like. But back when I was kind of first getting into black metal, it was a review in Decibel that got me interested in this record, Apocalypse Sun, by Nightbringer. Yeah, I think Nightbringer is a very cool project. And there are a couple associated projects that Kyle also works on, Aklis and Euratos, I think is called. Aklis put out a record a year and a half ago, maybe, that was like it almost topped my list of favorites of the year. The most recent Aklis record, In the House of the Black Gemini, I think it's called, is just exceptional. I was blown away by how that sounds. So yeah, Nightbringer is cool, and I think the Aklis band is just doing things better than a lot of people are doing when they try.
Dense and nightmarish.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it, Marty.
I'm gonna try to go grab something. I'll be right back.
Right on. Alan's up.
Yeah, I had one of the Aklis albums in my stack. This is the first one, The Dreaming Eye. Really, like you said, Marty, dark and dense, nightmarish. Yep, that covers it right there for sure. And yeah, Daniel's right. Nightbringer, controversial band at times, writes incredibly good music. People sometimes compare it to like an American version of Emperor. Maybe that's a little hyperbolic, but I can see where they're coming from. It's not an outlandish statement to make either. All right, let's see. Wow, it's already back to me. Okay, here's a bigger one we've touched on a little bit, but part of the black metal scene and legacy for the U.S. is Agalloch, of course.
Yep.
Don't know why I picked Marrow of the Spirit. I don't think I meant to, but it's the one that came off the shelf. I do like this album. I know some folks are not into this one as much, but I thought it still had a pretty cool sound. Agalloch was another one of those bands that had sort of a breakthrough moment and got a lot of people interested. But let's face it, Agalloch is one of those bands that is black metal, but I think they attract a lot of folks that aren't necessarily interested in your more straightforward black metal. They've got their own unique sound that really came to fruition on the first two albums. And so they had just a lot of crossover appeal with the audiences that they connected with. The third and fourth albums are great too. It's really only the last album I had trouble connecting with. And by that point in time, the band was kind of fraying a bit. They were kind of running out of gas. I notice in recent years, more people are kind of circling back to that last Agalloch album and rediscovering it and seem to have a much more positive opinion of it. I need to go back and give it another chance myself. It's been ages since I heard it. Got it when it came out and was kind of unimpressed. Everything else in the catalog, though, is extremely good, including, some of the EPs and stuff they did. Sometimes EPs are not essential, but things like the White EP from Agalock is really interesting, gorgeous music, even though it's different. I think that one is, mainly just, I always mess up the pronunciation of his last name. I don't think all the guys contributed to the stuff on the White EP, but it's still a really nice piece of music. And of course, Agalock now, has been very successful on the comeback circuit. They've got a amazing new drummer with Hunter. And full disclosure, Hunter's been on the show many times,
and he's going to be back soon.
and yes, we're working on finding a topic. Hunter really wants to come back on. We just haven't figured out what we want to chat about yet. But
check out Radical Research too.
Yeah, he's at Radical Research. They just did a new episode a day or two ago for fans that want to check it out.
Oh,
and he's just a super nice guy. And I couldn't be happier that he's getting to play with Agalock. I know it's one of those kind of he has to pinch himself to make sure it's kind of real moments. There's a lot of questions and a lot of talk about will there be new material, and it certainly hasn't been ruled out. I think the guys have just been kind of enjoying the fact that reuniting has gone over so well and been really comfortable and fun for them. As talented as those guys all are, it's hard for me to believe, though, that they're going to be content just replaying stuff for very long. I think they almost have to, by their nature, start creating new music at some point, and it's going to be great to hear what they do. So yeah, Agalock has their own sound, and another band that brought a lot of folks into black metal's orbit.
This is a stupid flex, but here's the demo.
Very cool.
From which of this oak? I think I've shown it on here before, but yeah.
I think John did that drawing. I think that's his
his
artwork. Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Very neat.
Awesome stuff. Love the first 3 albums. How can you not? They're so good.
Yep.
Okay. Well, on the other side of the tracks here, we're going to Philadelphia with Bloodstorm. This is a band with Chris Gamble at the helm, who was in Goraphobia back in the day. And Chris Gamble has a connection to Absu. He was also a touring bass player, singer for the band. But I've got 4 other records. I haven't pursued them much further than this. But you know what? The album covers are like airbrush on the side of a 70s van type of artwork. To me anyway. It doesn't really say black metal, but you know what? Listen to a couple of the albums this week, and it's just pretty good, man. It's raw, kind of mystical at times, but just kind of American sounding black metal. It's not really going for an atmosphere. It's just really well done. Chris's voice is very mid-range snarl, fits the style of black metal they're playing really well. And yeah, they're kind of a staple early on, and they're still putting out records. I think they put out one. Hold on, I had it up here for a second. Yeah, they put out one in 2025, Saturnian Reptiles. So still at it. So that's cool.
I didn't know they were still around. Cool.
Yeah, they put out a handful of records. So,
I hadn't thought of that band in forever before you named it, but yeah, I remember them getting on the scene and tracking down one of their things through like a CDR trading, I think, back in the day.
You got a disc coming your way. I had it. Oh no, you don't. I thought I had a duplicate. Never mind. I take it back. You got other stuff in your package, but that's not one of them. Never mind.
It's all cool. It's all cool.
All right, Daniel.
That's very cool. I want to throw in a bonus on Alan's Agalock conversation. I think Agalock has some black metal in their sound, absolutely. But I think even more black metal was John's other project, Pelorian. Which I think deserves far more attention than it got, and the kind of tragic demise of that band means that it kind of exists in a dark little bubble. But that music is incredible, and yeah, it needs ears.
Right on.
But so as we've crossed into our third hour, I realize I want to make sure that we don't forget to get into this. If we're going to talk about black metal being made in the U.S., I think talking about the Black Twilight Circle is pretty important.
Yeah.
The back of this compilation gives a list of that's not a list of songs, that's the list of bands.
All have at least one of the same guy in all of them. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But like each with like kind of different sounds, different approaches to the music. I think this stuff is not particularly readily available. There's a ton of it. There's a ton of Black Twilight Circle recorded material that like has been sent out. Like, I guess we were talking about Andy Harris recording an album a year and really nobody's getting to hear it. There's just a bunch of stuff that nobody gets a chance to hear. And it's, for someone like me, I'm so gluttonous for this stuff that not having the opportunity to hear it bothers me. I also understand that the people who make it feel like, well, that's kind of the point. Like it should be difficult to even find. And there's an air of, whether it's mystery or like exclusivity around who gets a chance to hear it. I get all that, but I'm glad that some of it is more widely available. I think Volon is awesome. I think the Akabal record is just killer. So
Blue Hummingbird on the left stuff is good too.
Yeah. All that stuff is really interesting.
Axeman, his take on Amoebics.
Yeah.
There's tons of it.
It could be. I don't know. It deserves to be part of the future of American black metal. So I hope that that's true.
Yeah. Good call on that. I totally spaced pulling any of that stuff. Good call. I don't know how I overlooked that. That is a whole nother chapter. It could have been a whole section in the book. You know what I mean?
If I had gotten somebody to like talk to me, it was years of trying to track the dude down from Volon to like have that conversation, and it never happened.
He said, "Stuff it, huh?"
I mean, he didn't say anything. I never even made contact.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Aaron the Metal Theologian causing trouble in California.
Oh boy.
All right. Alan.
All right. I want to bring one up, but I don't have a lot to say about it. I think it's, a band we need to touch on. I just don't know a lot about them, and I haven't really got into the stuff I do know by them. And that band is Contreras. Contreras has put out, a ton of albums. Daniel's got a really good chapter about them in the book. They're highly regarded. I feel like they're one of those bands that, to some extent, people who are musicians really start to, geek out on this band pretty hard, which is fine. For non-musicians like myself, I wonder if we have more trouble getting into this because we don't have, it's a little harder for us to appreciate on a technical level all the, crazy guitar things that are, going on within the music. So yeah, obviously a pretty big project. I don't know the catalog well enough, and I've never really been sucked in by the stuff I've heard. So, but we ought to mention them. So, Daniel, Marty, any thoughts y'all would like to put forth? Y'all probably know Contreras better than I do.
I just saw them play not too long ago with Blood Incantation. And what's interesting to me about that show is it was completely different than what I expected, because they leaned way more heavily into their most recent kind of synth-driven material. I've seen Contreras play 4, 5, 6 times, and I thought I knew what Krallis was in a live setting. You know, it's chaotic, it's technical, but this version that they're bringing to the stage right now is a very different sound, a very different staging of what they do, and I like that. They have so many records that we talked about. Krieg having eras. Krallis definitely has eras that will hit some people differently than others at different times. Anyway, Marty.
All right. Well, this is a band that I have not listened to or thought about much until this week, and I've seen them play once, and they got all decked up in the chainmail and the in the thing. But Dark Moon. This is a band that has members that were in Demonic Christ with Dana Duffy. That's her name. And a couple of the guys went on to be in Nile, early iteration of Nile as well. These guys were fairly well considered black metal. The synth work they did was all guitar synth. And seeing it live, it was pretty cool. They had a guitar synth thing crammed down by the pickup, and you just click a pedal in it. They're playing the synth lines on the guitar. I think the band Valdrin does that now. That's in the Ohio area. But seeing it live, it was pretty cool to see them pull it off. And they were all decked out in the chainmail, like I said, and very energetic, very good live band. This is their debut, Vengeance for Wicked Hearts. This is their last album, Antichrist, or .308 Antichrist. And this is a friend of mine bought this at the show, but Seas of Unrest, I copied. This is a copy. But yeah, haven't thought about them in a while. I remember liking this one the best. They got a little bit more complicated, technical as they went. Kind of lost the black metal vibe, but they were good. Seeing them live was cool. Experiencing this stuff live is always and again, being American bands, they might don the garb, but they go at it. And the live shows are more brutal. You know, propeller headbanging, and it just felt more intense than, you know, your typical black metal show maybe would be. But Daniel.
Yeah. Cool pick, Marty. I completely forgot about that band.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool stuff. So there's a band that's a little, I was going to say they're a little newer. I definitely came to them more recently. There's a band out of Texas called Kriegsgrav. And they had like 4 records out before I ever heard them. The first time I heard them was when they put out a record on Wise Blood Records. Wise Blood is being run by a buddy of mine who also writes for Decibel, and he puts out just great record after great record. And Kriegsgrav just has some really interesting stuff, especially their last 2. They just put out a record. I think it's called Stormcaller.
Yeah, it's a good record.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's so good. Yeah,
I can't remember the name of the one I put out. I can't remember. Great record. They've always been a good band, but they've gotten more mature as they've gone. They've definitely progressed. Good guys too. Super nice dudes. Yeah.
Yeah, big fan of that band.
Yeah.
Good, yeah, I thought that was a good album that came out last year. I saw it on a couple of people's top 10 lists at the end of the year too, or like honorable mentions. So it got some attention.
I didn't mean to cut you off, Dan. Are you done? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all I had to say.
Okay, right on.
Alan just said landed on some top 10 lists, and it did for me. It was right up there in my top 5 for the year. So yeah.
All right.
All right, let's go back to the Bandcamp folder on the phone. Wade mentioned this project, and yeah, it was on my list. I just hadn't gotten to it yet, but he and I have geeked out on this band before. Portland band, unfortunately broken up now, called None, just None. Made a few albums, 2010s and just here in the 2020s. Kind of came out pretty fast and then just disappeared. Don't know how well it'll show up, but this I think is their second. Life has gone on long enough.
Yeah, it's some depressive stuff, man.
Yes, it really they very much fall in that kind of DSBM subcategory. And for good reason. Yes, it's got that very, very bleak kind of sound to it. I do think, though, maybe it's a little more melodic than you get with some projects in this style, especially on the last album they did, which was still quite good. Let me jump back over here to pull that one up. Inevitable was the fourth and last one from 2023. And this one, yeah, you saw him trying a few different things, with the sound. The covers are all pretty similar. It's all, basically woodsy looking areas in the dead of winter with the focus on the dead of winter. But this is the kind of style where it feels like it's not necessarily hard for a band to do it, but it can be hard for a band to do it really well. And none felt like they did it extremely well. The music, had really strong replayability. It didn't feel like it was just trying to be a Zaster clone or anything like that. That they, even though what they're going for, it still feels like they found their own little niche in that style. And I really do hate that they kind of broke up out of the blue. It felt like they had a lot of mileage, especially with this one, since they were moving in some different directions. This one had like some longer instrumental passages that weren't just focused on the depressive side of things. So it's like, that's something they might develop, except now they're not going to develop it since the project has run its course. The stuff is annoyingly hard to find on CD. I think they were on Hypnotic Dirge.
Yep.
So yeah, it didn't have great distribution or
Canadian label. They just moved to all operations to Europe, I think, or Spain, or I don't know, someplace. Portugal, maybe.
It would be nice to see the Nun stuff get reprinted because it was made on physical media, but you don't want to pay those prices on Discogs. You just don't. Happy having the stuff digitally in Bandcamp for now, but would be cool to see those get reissued because it was a really good project. Deserves a chance for more people to pick it up on vinyl or CD if they prefer that. So yeah, Nun, Wade, thank you for jogging my memory. Sometimes I forget what I'm intend to show on the phone instead of on the stack of stuff over here, but Nun definitely deserved a shout out tonight.
All right.
Cheers, Simon.
All right, it's time. It's time to talk about Nichachwan.
Yep, fair.
Absolutely. Heart of Akamon. Me and a buddy went and set up a bind room table at the last Heathen Crusade Festival in St. Paul. And in between bands, Aaron Carey had set up and was playing with a looper pedal and acoustic guitar, all instrumental. He would kind of say what the piece was about in between songs, and he was playing while Moon Sorrow was sound checking. So he was like battling against a wall of finished black metal in the background, and Spirit really good. Met the guy. I think I traded him a Blood of the Black Owl CD for his debut album, Algonquian Mythos. And on the ride home, me and my buddy Matt were both sick as dogs, and that's the only album we listened to the whole way home. It was quiet. It was sedative, or really emotional and atmospheric, and asked him if he wanted to work together coming out of it. This is another one of those bands that is rooted in black metal for sure, but it isn't what it is. It's more folk. Aaron is an amazingly gifted classical guitar player, also trained in flamenco. He's a guitar teacher, an instructor. He's so talented. He's super, super sweet, awesome, beautiful human being too. But, this is one of those bands that, people mention Black Braid and other indigenous style black metal bands, and people don't really mention Nichachwan, which is a bummer because this stuff is, maybe it isn't raw cult black metal enough. I don't know. But, this music it touches upon black metal, but it comes from an amateur historian telling true tales of native indigenous folk struggles and things over the years. And there's so much power and passion in this music, and it is so musically gifted without, being overbearing. It all is in service of the song. Amazing guitar work, goes from classical pieces to straight up just black metal styled, American styled black metal, woodsy feeling type of music. This is Heart of Akamon, just got reissued last year on Nordvis. And this is Otto. First half of this is all acoustic. The second half is black metal. Aaron is this an incredibly gifted guy, and the music is, if you like Panopticon and stuff like that, I wouldn't say that they are super similar, but they feel like they should be in the same conversation as far as emotive, the emotional content it conveys to the listener while they're listening to it. It's very heavy, very spirited, very talented musically, not only just in the playing, but the way the songs are put together. It's just an excellent band that deserves you to check them out, I would say. Daniel.
I feel like you're talking directly to me when you say that, because I have not connected with the Nachachman stuff, and I want to, and so I'm gonna find some time soon to just dig in and sit with some of that music. I want to feel like I get it more than I have.
Right on.
And
maybe it'll click one of these days.
Yeah. And this is just a little side note. You mentioned one of my absolute favorites, so I'm just going to flash it across. Blood of the Black Owl.
That's my favorite Black Owl album, is that one. I love that record.
I love all of it. Doesn't really necessarily belong in the black metal conversation, but it kind of does.
Yeah. Knowing that he was he told me once a big influences for him were Hellhammer and the song Quintessence by Dark Throne off of Panzerfaust were two big influences for him. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So one of the other incredible finds that I made when I was working on the book was the band Ceremonial Castings. And it was kind of an accidental find because I knew I needed to explore Wada, which at that point had 2, maybe 3 records out. And in digging into Wada, I found Ceremonial Castings. And I mean, that band had like 6 or 8 records out, and they all came out within kind of a few years. Every one of them had exceptional stuff on it. And then, like, shortly after I finished the book, those guys decided to, like, pull all of their old recordings from all platforms, like from Bandcamp. Like, you can't get to this stuff because they wanted to, like, re-record and reinterpret some of the songs. So they've re-recorded some things and put those re-recordings out, but that does not encompass nearly all of the music that existed out there, and they've just made it much harder to get to. Anyway, I love that stuff, and I'm disappointed that it's harder to hear now.
All right. Oh, one comment here. Does Warhammer 666 count as USBM? You know what? Lee considers himself Australian black metal, but I was going to talk to him about that the other day. I think it's changed now. He is essentially in the US now, so I think it's US black metal now. He would probably say that is wrong, but I don't know. Good band though. Check them out.
Yep. Yeah, and a fair question because it is an unusual case.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, the Ceremonial Castings is one that I remember reading about in your book, Daniel, and I haven't gotten to check out yet, but it's another one that's on that short list of things. Like the way it's described, it sounds extremely good. Just got to get around to hearing it.
Right on. Never ends.
There's always something to check out. Yep. So many things to check out. All right. Let's see. This one. Yeah. Do a little more Cascadian black metal here. Falls of Raros. Long-running project that's very good in this style. This is my favorite one from them, Light That Dwells in Rotten Wood. This is not an original. This is one of the later pressings. But yeah, on this one, Falls is always interesting. They write really great lyrics. Some albums I like the music on better than others. This one, I feel like, that all the components really came together beautifully, though. And for fans, that like the more Cascadian, thoughtful, kind of style, the lyrics almost poetic to a certain degree, works extremely well. They've been on, Bindrune, of course, for quite a while. I don't know what label they're on these days, but they've done several albums. I don't think any of them are bad, but I think this one for me is the real gem of the bunch. I know there's one before this that a lot of people like too. What is the title of that one?
I can see the cover. I can.
Or something like that. Is it?
Yeah, I think we're reissuing it this year on vinyl.
Oh,
okay. Can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on the title of that one, but yeah, also good. But yeah, I feel like Light That Dwells was like the Falls of Rauros, and deserves to be up there, like with kind of the top tier Cascadian black metal releases, at least for me.
I don't think they're on Gilead anymore. They put out a couple records on Gilead. I think Adam is done with the label now. I think he's put out his last release, or he's got one more going. He's been winding it down as he focuses on his record stores. Has several record stores in the town of Oshkosh. So, all right, is it my turn?
Your turn, sir.
All right. Well, we're gonna keep going with the First Nations type stuff. There's a band I discovered on Bandcamp of all places. This is Leonoka with Tides of Triumph. It's a one-man First Nations indigenous black metal type thing, and this is a really solid record. It says this record was proudly made in Ontario. He's listed as Californian, but this is one-man black metal. It's very, very harsh, raspy voice. The music is very good. There's a lot of violin and flute strewn over the top of this stuff, and it gives it a bit of an unsettling vibe when everything is firing on all cylinders. Listened to it the other day to remind myself, and yeah, really solid, good black metal that really no one has talked about. I've heard anybody talk about. I found this without any sort of guidance from anybody else. Just popped up on Bandcamp one day. I'm like, oh, sound good. I'll check out a copy of it. And yep, really solid. If you're into that type of stuff, it's very raw black metal, but it still has good sonics about it. That's produced really well. You can hear everything. At times the violin might sound a bit out of tune with what's going on with the music, but that's only on occasion. Most of the time sounds great. It adds a very interesting atmosphere to it too. Different from what you hear on Panopticon and stuff like that, or Excellensis. But yeah, solid. Leonoka, Lionoka. Tides of Triumph is the name of the album. Check it out.
Don't know that one.
Daniel.
Marty, you keep doing this. You keep saying things, and it's like, okay, I will do that now. I don't know that record. Now I really want to hear it.
Yeah, check it out. It's good stuff.
Cool. Well, I'm probably inappropriately gonna move from that to the cowboy side of things with Wayfarer out of Denver, I believe.
Yep.
Wayfarer are really interesting. I think their first three records didn't really click for me. And I didn't dislike what I was hearing, but it took a while. And I didn't really just spend time with it. I think it was their I think it's their fourth record, if I'm remembering correctly, Romance with Violence. Really landed for me. Those songs, that recording style, like what they were doing on that record, just blew me away. And then they've put out another record since then, which I also really, really, really liked. The guys in Wayfarer have been making some cool strides in music. And they're
doing some cool stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, that's that's
They're
my
a
next
band that they have not connected with me. I've tried, and I'm missing something. I'm missing something. I get it. I hear it all. I think it's interesting, but it doesn't inspire me to play it again. And it's not because it's bad. It's just because I can't connect with it. Yeah. Alan.
Yep. Well, yeah, I'll piggyback right off of that and continue with Wayfarer. Because, I've kind of had the same experience Daniel has. The first few albums I have heard and I've gone back to once or twice, but they've never really sank in. But, and I missed The Romance with Violence when it came out. I kind of just glossed over that one. But yeah, when American Gothic came out a couple of years ago, it was one we got a promo for at Heavy Metallurgy. I'm like, well, okay, I'm looking for something to review this month. Let me give that a chance. It's a band I keep poking at. People keep recommending and just hasn't gotten there. Let me see what this new one's like. Maybe that'll be it. And yeah, this really clicked nicely. So really enjoyed the album. It's held up well. I keep going back to it in recent years. And then heard Romance with Violence. Marty, you sent me your copy of it since you couldn't connect with it. And yeah, I like that one a lot too. They each have their own personality, which is something I'm enjoying about Wayfarer. They're getting this kind of, yes, cowboy Western, sub micro infra genre stuck on them. I like the fact though that it's not just trying to play into like, every kind of, stereotype cowboy Western thing. It has that kind of feel in the atmosphere of the music. But like the songs on American Gothic, most of this has much more of like a Dust Bowl Great Depression era of the West. Not the classic, John Wayne, John Ford movie Cowboy West. A Romance with Violence played into that a little bit more with like the gunslinger things, but it also added other layers of atmosphere. It had the Sergio Leone kind of drama to it, and it felt very theatrical with the instrumental parts they added and such. So yeah, Wayfarers, I think they've hit their stride. Now, some folks really do like the earlier albums. World's Blood has a great reputation. It's on that same not so short list of things I need to revisit. But I feel like, the past couple of albums, they're really finding their voice and figuring out how to just make the songs work better, at least for my ears. So yeah, I agree with Daniel. This is a project I'm really enjoying, and they seem to be gaining momentum. This album got a lot of positive press, hit well. So they seem to be building and building. I hope they do great. I want to see more stuff come from the Wayfarer camp.
All right. Well, it's time, I guess, to talk about this band a bit. Lamp of Murmur.
Oh,
this is one of those bands I'm a little late to, and it took me for a minute to click for me, and it just seemed like one of those bands. It seemed like a Bandcamp type of band. Like if you're in a Bandcamp type of band, fine, great. But it seemed like every time they put out a release, it was planned scarcity. They'd be super low print runs, and the buzz would be created. And I gotta have it. It appeals to the collector scum. I gotta catch it. People hawking over it, waiting for a new album to hit. They try to order it as quick as possible.
The whole 50 copies on green shelled cassettes will be released noon on Friday, and you have to sit there and drive yourself nuts trying to. Yeah, I don't dig that. I finally started.
They started getting released finally, reissued finally, and I'm picking them up here and there, and it's really pretty decent stuff. And then this album comes along. Which one is this? This is Submission and Slavery. You got the mock cover tribute to Sisters of Mercy Floodland, which I love me some Sisters of Mercy, but
Black Planet.
They're trying to make you think that there's a big Gothic influence. There's a little Gothic influence on here, but it just isn't. I don't know. I think the anticipation of the cover was a bigger sell. This is a decent record, though. It's good. It kind of blew them up. it isn't what I see this. I want to be more gothy than that. I love the goth stuff. Not going to lie. Shortly after this, I didn't grab the records, but they put out a straight up Immortal tribute, and they're still kind of on the new album has some Immortalisms in it, but the album that came before it, I can't remember the name of it. It sounds like
Sanguinarian blood
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really good, and it sounds like a lower tier version of At the Heart of Winter. And for a nostalgic romp, it's very fun, but lacking its own identity. But I will say, I'll give the band credit. They're really kind of blowing up, and they're doing the thing. They're going out there. He's got a band thrown together. They're out touring a bunch, and good for them. Good for them. And it's kind of interesting to see a band that kind of sprouted up from the Bandcamp aesthetic with super limited releases kind of going on, and new song plays on YouTube has 40,000 views in the first day or two. I mean, that's a sign of a band on the rise, and I'm not going to just besmirch them for that, but it's interesting to see this band kind of take shape, and the whole Immortal tribute thing. I don't get it. I get he probably likes that band, obviously, but to invest a whole album's worth of Immortal tribute type stuff when the early stuff isn't that way at all. So I don't know. It's interesting. I find the band interesting. I'm kind of, whenever an album turns up, I'll buy it to check it out. I can't say I love it. I don't dislike it. I'm on the fence. They're one of those bands that deserve mention because they're a modern era in the US scene it's getting some groundswell for sure. Dan.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm with you in basically everything you said there about Lamp of Murmur. I feel like I was late to that party.
Me too.
But I really do like the most recent record, the Prince record. I think that's a very cool one.
We had a promo for it, and I was going to review it, and I dropped the ball on it. I got busy, and I listened to it once. It sounded good. I just didn't invest a lot of time in it.
Yeah.
I'll get it eventually.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. Yeah. I agree with you, Marty. The one before it, the Immortal Worship album.
Yeah. It's
not that it's done bad, but it feels really weird in their catalog to have this sudden U-turn into and now we're going to do this more hyper aggressive kind of fanboy album and then we'll get back to our regularly scheduled Lamp of Murmur on the next album.
Right.
It's not bad, but it's just like, it also seemed like a strange time to do it because, like you said, the previous one had really got them on the map. And so it seemed like a weird time to have an identity crisis and veer off and just do something that was such, a flamboyant kind of copy of something very well known. Don't know.
Yeah. All right, Dan.
Yeah. So I think Marty, you mentioned this band a little while ago, but their sound is so distinct. I want to talk about Negative Plane. I first heard them, I think when their second record came out, before the massive years-long hiatus, and was just struck by the recording quality. It's not that that terrible super lo-fi sound. It actually feels pretty well produced, except that there's so much reverb that it just sounds like you're in this cave with flickering torches and bats everywhere. And,
in an abandoned subway tunnel.
Yes.
It's New York.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. And anyway, so that really struck me. I really, really like their first couple records. I know that when they came back with The Pact a couple years ago, a bunch of people were super into that also. I like it just fine. But I think I'll always gravitate more toward the first and second records, which I feel like have so much personality. In fact, so recognizable a sound. So what I think of as unique a sound that I guess a couple years ago, I heard a band that sounded so much like that I was super dismissive of that band because I was like, you're just doing Negative Plane. I'd rather just listen to Negative Plane. That's probably uncharitable of me, but anyway, yeah, that's how distinct I think Negative Plane sound.
Yep. We did an album from them in the album club, and another one of those bands I have a hard time connecting with. The atmosphere it sounds like in the city. It doesn't feel like, woods or I just had a hard time connecting with it. It's good. A lot of reverb. You're right. A lot of reverb.
Yeah.
All right, man. What do you got?
I've got a band from Nashville. Not exactly what you think of as the black metal capital of the world, but I heard this one when it came out back in the late 90s. Always kind of liked it. The band did a few things here and there, but didn't exactly become a household name. It's Epoch of Unlight. The album's called What Will Be Has Been. Yeah, kind of a cool project.
Live ones. They were good.
Yeah. I think one of the guys used to post on like the Maniacs and Lapland boards. I might be getting him mixed up with someone from a different project, but I think they had a presence on there for a while. And yeah, I think that's why I ended up checking this out at the time, because it felt like there was sure, you've got something out, let's dig it up. And I probably had to get it through CDR trading. I don't think I ever found a real copy of it. And yeah, the deal with Epoch of Unlight, at least at this point, they had a pretty ferocious sound. This wasn't ambient or trancey or anything. It in a way had similarities to something closer to Angel Corpse. Not that dense or anything, but going for that same kind of fire-breathing vitriol, which was kind of cool. It was a period there with the late 90s where there was a lot of focus on melodic black metal, the Dimmu Borgers of the world and such being a big deal. And of course, people still wanting just, the kind of, more raw, trancey Burzum black metal from earlier in the decade. So yeah, I liked the fact that, even though, it was, a debut from a smaller project, it didn't have any of the most amazing sounds. Sorry, it's not showing up great on screen here. But yeah, I like the fact that it felt like, it went for the throat more than some black metal projects, but it wasn't trying to do it just by blasting away or being super dense or anything. Yeah, they had a cool, slightly different sound. So What Will Be Has Been. It's one of those. I haven't played it in a long time until we thought about doing this topic with Daniel, but it was one of the things I did quickly think. I was like, yep, I want to pull out a few personal favorites, and that's one I ought to go see if I still have on the computer somewhere. So a cool project for folks that like to, dig into some of the bands that aren't as well known.
All right. Going to Texas. Cheers to Necron in the chat. He was in Thornspawn for a while. I didn't pull any Thornspawn this time. I pulled instead the one lone album by Texas's Sonara. The Everlong.
Oh yeah, I had that pulled here somewhere too.
Yep. Thanks, Alan, for snagging me a copy. This album came out in 2020. Big debacle when it came out. A lot of people pre-ordered it, and it was year or something after the album came out that they received their shit. So he raised quite a bit of fuss around this whole album. But listen to this today, and you know what? It's really good. It's produced really well. It is an American guy being inspired by Dissection, that whole era of Sweden, where it's the cross between black and melodic death metal. The first half of this is inspired by that, but it doesn't go full into it. But as the album progresses, there's lifted Dissection riffs all over this thing. It's like, oh, I've heard that. Oop, yep. Oop, that's real close to that riff. But it's still a really good record. It's an American take on, it's a pretty accurate take on the whole mid 90s melodic black / death metal from Sweden. But
took 2 years to make it south of the equator, apparently, to poor Simon.
Yep.
Yep,
it is. But it's a good record. He did this one record, and looking at his he did a split and then a compilation, a couple singles and a demo. So I think he the way things panned out didn't do him any favors as far as his self promotion goes. But
yeah,
Daniel,
unfortunately, he probably wouldn't have much luck putting something else out there. But maybe try to start over with a new project name and get your shipping together ahead of time next time.
Yep. All right. Dan.
Yeah. So for this next pick, I'm going to get a little indulgent. It's kind of a newer project, but actually that sounds way older. I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation that I taught at the same school as a guy who was like deep into black metal. He's the one who got me into black metal. And then in the past few years, he's been toiling away at making his own stuff. And so there's this project that he's been working on, and he's got a bunch of demos, and then he just put out a full length on, oh my gosh, I'm going to mess up the order of these words. Is it Horror, Pain, Gore, Death Records?
No, that's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Good. The project is called Embers of Ouroboros. It's like I said, it's a project that he's been building over the past few years, but it sounds old. Like he is inspired by the dirty, ugly, and very angry aesthetic of old tin can kind of black metal. And yeah, the vibe of this music is so intense. I really like it. He also has a death metal band that has a similar sound. It's just very dirty death metal called Moonchapel. I'm actually wearing that shirt right now. Anyway, his stuff is, I think, really worth checking out. It's it hits me in a place that I don't hear much anymore. With everybody has access to technology that can make their music projects sound pristine, and so most recordings that come out now, they don't sound terrible. That's great, but like there was a charm to that terrible sound, and he finds that perfect sweet spot. Anyway, yeah, I like it a lot.
Sweet. Never heard of him. Awesome. Glad he's getting something put out. That's great.
Yeah.
Ellen.
All right, let's see. Getting near the end here, but we haven't talked about this one yet. Yeah, Marty and I have mentioned the sound before. We both enjoyed a lot. Caladan Brood with Echoes of Battle. This one's easy to describe. It's an American version of Summoning, going from very much that same kind of huge world building concept.
Yep.
And it is based off of a big sprawling universe as well. Summoning draws all their inspiration from, the world of Tolkien, of course. And who's the guy in this project? I forget his name. He's in a bunch of different projects over the years, like
Galabrade and
Visigoth.
And yeah.
I'm blanking on his name.
I don't remember his name. I can look.
Regardless, the Caladan Brood material is based off of the Malazan Books of the Fallen, which is another one of these really deep and dense fantasy world series. It's by an author named Steve Erickson. I've never read it. Can't give you the details. All I can tell you is that the
Jake
Malazan Rogers. There we go. Thank you, Marty. But yeah, the Malazan stuff covers a few 100,000 years worth of history. So you're not just following one group of hobbits for a couple of books and they have a fun story. It's like you're covering the rise and fall of entire empires through that. Never have read it. It's got its own fandom, of course. Anything that massive is going to. But yeah, Jake, absolutely channels, the vibe of Summoning here extremely well. It's always been a little disappointing he didn't circle back to this project. He seems to be almost a one and done kind of guy. Make one really good recording under a name and then move to the next project.
Yeah, the
There's one-
Visigoth, I think that project took off. That was the one.
it's been a while since the second Visigoth album now. But I mean,
True.
you've got the one Gallowbraid EP, you've got the one Caledon Brood. Visigoth has, I think, an EP and 2 albums, but it's
See an Eternal Champion too, or is that a different guy?
that's pretty sure it's different because that's Texas based.
Yeah,
Although, I
I'm
mean,
wrong.
He could
I'm
work
wrong.
with them.
Totally wrong.
Yeah, let me check Visigoth because I like both those albums a lot. But yeah, second Visigoth was 2018. Even the EP was 2019. It's been we're now looking in year 7 since the Visigoth thing came out. So,
Yeah, it's Jason Tarpey on vocals for
okay,
Eternal Champion.
but yeah, so seems to be a very talented guy and is putting out a lot of cool stuff in different styles, which is interesting. Visigoth is more your traditional epic metal, not this kind of big world building black metal. It's just like put something follow up on some of these projects, please. We would like more than just a handful of Gallowbraid songs or one Caledon Brood album.
All right. Well, we're gonna do some fart sniffing here. Unfortunately, we've got some binary releases coming at you here. This came out last year. Numinous from Returning. This is a 2-piece band from Pacific Northwest, Cascadian black metal. Fans of Fauna, Blood of the Black Owl. Good combination between those two. It's really good Pacific Northwest themed black metal in sonics, but there's a very strong ritualistic tendency to this music that creeps in, the tribal drums and the, wraiths dancing around a campfire type of vibe a la Blood of the Black Owl. So this is their second record. We're going to be reissuing their debut this year at some point, but yep, this is really good. Really good. And live, they put on like this ritual live. So it's very immersive and intense, both live and on record. They capture it really well on here too. It just feels very rooted to the earth and emotional and desperate at times. It's very, very good, album. Check it out. If you're into the Cascadian black metal stuff, definitely would be up your alley.
Yeah, that was a nice release from y'all for sure.
Dan.
Yeah, I will admit to to viewers that I had to say to Marty earlier that like one of the things I would have to do is have this conversation not be just me standing all binder and things, because that label has been a massive boon to me.
Well, thank you, and I'm glad.
All kinds of cool stuff. So yeah,
very cool.
So we talked earlier about a couple things about politics in black metal and people having worldviews that are a little weird and a little difficult. And this next band I'm going to mention, I'm not entirely sure where things land with these guys. I understand that they have maybe bad taste in record labels. But we talked about Marcus Kohler earlier, and the band that he was in at some point, Commandant. This is a 2012 record of theirs. Again, I'm not sure what issues might surround that band, but in 2012, when this record, the Draconian Archetype, came out, it was really, really cool. I really liked the sound of it. They played a show at Maryland Death Fest in 2013, outside in the tent that they had that year, and it was a very impactful show. It was a very cool show. So I've really enjoyed the sound of the band, and I guess continue to hope that the guys are cool guys. I don't know any of them.
All right, Alan.
All right, want to slip this one in here as we get towards the end. Another Bindrune release. It's Vukari's Divination. this project's done a few recordings, and they're all really good. They have a lot of atmosphere. Songs can get kind of ambient, kind of heavy. They're very good at splicing together these longer pieces of music that you can get a bit lost in. I've had trouble tracking. You can get their stuff on Bandcamp and stuff. I've only gotten this one physical copy, but yeah, it is one of those projects that feels like it should be better known than it is. I'm not quite sure why that is, but yeah, it's one I recently mentioned it. When it was just at the local record store, somehow it came up. And somebody, when he was just on the other side of the store, you perked was like, "Oh, Vocari is really good." And it's just like, yes, they are. People that have heard it, seem to really like the band a lot. I don't know much about them. Marty, you might be able to fill in more info about the group.
Well, they broke up.
Have they split at this point?
Merrick went on to, I can't remember the name of the band. Spencer is
okay, didn't know
bass player. Spencer Morris is the bass player, and he's a studio guy. He mixes and masters. He does a lot of the Hey Brain Rotten PM. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Really appreciate that.
He does a lot of sound stuff for Reggie's. He's a sound guy there. He's mixed and mastered the last few Panopticon records. He's their sound guy. He goes out on tour with them now, and he's done the Glorious Dead last 2 records. He's super talented sound guy.
Okay. Yeah, because I know they did at least one more. I think it was called Avum, was the one that came after Divination, and that album is really, really good. I have one. It may be an EP that came before Divination. It's like a short concept recording. Yeah, all their stuff is really nicely done. So yeah, shame that they're not still together.
All right. I'm up. Oh, man. Well, this could have been a Moribund thing because they started off on Moribund, but Canis Dearest put out their last 2 records, Independence to the Beast and oh my God, I'm terrible with titles. By the Grace of Death. These guys have been at it a long time. They took a big break. The early 2 albums came out on Moribund. There's a bit of a Scandinavian vibe atmospherically in their sound. As they've continued on with this record in particular, a folk influence has creeped in, like an apocalyptic folk type of thing. It fits really well. They do a really good job. A lot of acoustic guitar, clean singing. That there's some experimental stuff on here as well. What improved a lot for this band, their first 2 albums are really good, but it was drum programmed. But now they have a drummer, CJ Jakob is their drummer. Very talented drummer. And yeah, these albums both turned out really good. And they're in a US black metal band that's been toiling for a lot of years, and just not a lot of people talk about them. I don't know why, but solid. Moribund, discovered by the Moribund cult, and still at it. Bunch of old farts. Cheers to Todd and Rob.
Yeah, they put out good stuff.
All right, Dan.
We've had some conversation about disappointingly short-lived projects. And so I'll bring up this guy, Roland, his last name. So there was this band Walkin'. This is not black metal. This is kind of a doom death kind of thing. Walkin' was very cool. But once that was done, then one of the guys who was instrumental in making that band happen did a black metal band called Lothric, which I've known about for a while, and I think this sounds very cool. It's very, it's very one-man lo-fi black metal, but definitely something that I enjoy. But again, it's the kind of thing he just put out like a couple recordings and then walked away from this project too. So there's likely no more coming from Lothric, but interesting sound and cool band. And I've known for a while that the name of the group or the name of the project is a reference to Dark Souls, but I only within the past I don't know, year or so actually cared about that when I just recently got into playing Dark Souls. So anyway.
All right, Alan.
All right. I forgot to pull this off the shelf, so I'll just pull it up on the phone here. This one made some waves, but again, hasn't been followed up on, at least yet. But these guys are in a lot of different bands. Stormkeep. This one was kind of brought the more melodic black metal style back to the fore with people's attentions. They had an EP before this, and then put out the album Tales of Otherworld, which is what I pulled up here. And yeah, just very well executed melodic black metal. They're on Van Records, and that's generally going to be a sign of quality stuff. Van's one of those labels. I feel like I can't buy everything because they never import anything into the US, but if you stumble across something on Van, it's probably worth at least stopping and taking a look at. Tales of Otherworld. The fun thing with this, and for some people, this is a deal breaker. For some people, it's endearing. It's a concept album, and even though it's melodic black metal music, it's very much going into one of these kind of epic fantasy Rhapsody of Fire type storylines. There's a wizard and a seer and a prophet. They walk into a bar together, and one says $5 for that horse. It gets really weird very fast. I mean, they even include a big, map as one of the inserts with the vinyl. So you can see where all the enchanted kingdoms and islands and seas and stuff are they're adventuring through. If you're into that kind of thing, it's great. For some people, I think that's a bridge too far in terms of what they want out of their black metal experience. But the album did pretty well. It got on people's radar. I think the associations of some of the other projects the guys are in probably helps that raise their visibility some. But they haven't circled back to tell any more tales from Otherworld yet, which is a little surprising. I don't know if they just decided it wasn't something they wanted to build upon, because it seems like they were laying the groundwork for this to be at least a couple of album story. If fantasy stuff's always supposed to be trilogies, yeah, they probably could have milked 3 albums out of their a trilogy here, but haven't yet. Nevertheless, the album and the EP have held up pretty well for me. There were things I checked out, I liked. Initially I was iffy. I'm like, well, this is kind of cool, but am I ever going to play it again? But they are coming off the shelf semi-regularly, and I'm enjoying the repeat listens. So Stormkeep, I guess we will see if there's any more tales or not. They also get an award for having one of the most vertically stretched logos. They really have those 2 bottom points go all the way down.
All right.
All right, Marty, after this, shall we do one last round?
Sure.
Probably about that time to call it.
Well, I'd be remiss in talking about the new stuff in the U.S. Well, here in Northern Michigan, there's Noah Payne. He's a friend of mine and the bass player in the Glorious Dead, my band. And he has a record label called Northern Spire Productions. And he's a very prolific, talented musician and creates a lot of underground black metal. First of the projects was Undercroft, which broke up, played some shows, broke up. Great demo. I can't find it. I asked him, I said, do you have a copy laying around? Because I've lost my demo. From there, he went on to form Lanzarath. This is an Infinite Instant. This started off as a drunk thing. He would write some music drunk, and a bunch of friends would come over drunk, and they would scream some lyrics they wrote up drunk. But as the years have gone on, the project has gotten tightened up quite a bit and quite good. This is another band. This is Wood Cult. It's him, 2 other people, Ken from Pan on drums. This is kind of Dark Throne-y in a way, but very stripped down black metal. They've played live, done a show with them up in the UP. Really good stuff. Simplistic, but very good. Well done. It feels very authentic. And his solo project, Oralisk. The name of this is The Underworld Obscura. And this is really good single member black metal, very demented style at times, twisted riffs, very dark and haunting feeling. Kind of matches the cover perfectly. But he's a very prolific guy. He also has a death metal band ish, a project with Ken from Pan. I should have pulled a Pan record. Why didn't I pull a Pan record? Oh well. They have a new album coming out too. Great band. Chris Boris, the singer guitar player for Pan, used to be in the Glorious Dead as well. So yeah, little Northern Michigan, a little scene growing up here. It's a lot of fun.
Very cool.
But check out that Northern Spire Productions. He puts out some cool shit. I also have some in the Bind Room store if you want to peruse. Sorry, Dan.
Yeah, man, you turned me on to that stuff just a couple hours before we got on here, and so I started listening. So I'm excited to keep going with that. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah.
So if we're going one more round, I'm just gonna.
You can do multiples. You can do multiples
Yeah.
in this. Cram a few in here if you'd like. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I'm gonna. The theme here is black metal from a couple different places in New York. We've mentioned Black Braid, which is not New York City. That's kind of out in the rural part of New York. But Black Braid is, again, if we're going to talk about what's big and really drawing people in black metal right now, Black Braid is doing it. That first Black Braid record, only like a half hour long, but it landed on me pretty hard. I loved it as soon as I heard it. I was driving to work on a Friday when I put it on for the first time, and it just lit up my day. Like, my morning just got better because I was listening to it. The next couple records are long enough, like over an hour, that it's been harder for me to just kind of encapsulate a feeling about that. But
yeah, same here.
And then the guys, the brothers in Yellow Eyes, I mentioned them a little while ago. They are they have done really interesting things, and they continue to evolve. They just put out an album a month or two ago that is extraordinary. Just very, there's a lot of personality in what they're creating. So I love the Yellow Eyes stuff. And then lastly, I don't know if it's black metal or if it's death metal or if it's black and death or deathy black. Imperial Triumphant. They are, I know there's a lot of hype in some corners and hate in other corners. I generally think Imperial Triumphant are better than most people think. Maybe not as good as their closest adherents would like to think. But I think they do extraordinary songs. I've only seen them play once, and the performance didn't grab me. I'd really love to see them play again because I want to figure out why I didn't connect to it that first time. But I think their records have a lot going for them. So I dig Imperial Triumphant as much as anything.
Okay. Yeah. Daniel, what did you think of Gold Star compared to the rest of the catalogs? I know some folks felt like that one wasn't as out there, or that maybe it played it too safe compared to what they've been doing. I'm just curious what your take was on it.
Sure, you're totally right. The songs are a little more contained, a little more easily digestible, but I don't think that's playing it safe. I think that's them trying to go in a direction to see that they can do this thing also. I'm not sure I need the mid-album like Gold Star advertisement thing that happens there, but otherwise I'm good with it. Did you listen to it?
Yeah, I've heard it. I don't know a lot of their back catalog, so I didn't really have much to compare it to. But
Gotcha.
Yeah, I thought, by itself, it was pretty interesting. It was decent.
Yeah,
I played it a few times. I never circled back to it, but it's like, this seems kind of cool.
Also, one of the members, Steve Blanco, just put out an album of piano cover, just straight up piano covers of their Imperial Triumphant songs. And man, it is a really, really good record. It's very listenable. It's really well done. Anyway, so the piano covers of the Imperial Triumphant songs is also very cool.
Okay.
I'm out of bullets.
Yeah.
I could show this, the new Waft album, but I don't really think this is a black metal record. There's elements of it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Death metal, there's a little Americana on here, but a little bit of black metal. But we talked about Charlie earlier, and he just put on an amazing solo record. So
yeah.
I guess that's it. Is everybody happy? Are we good?
We've covered a lot. We can't cover everything, of course.
No.
We didn't get around to Obsequii. We didn't get around to Noctuary. There's
we not get to Obsequii? Okay, yeah.
I know it's.
Oh my god!
But somehow we didn't. Yeah,
Go ahead,
we
Dan.
did.
Go ahead. You want to talk about Obsequii? We can close out on Obsequii.
Sure, man. That
we got to start with the beginning of Obsequii, though, with Autumnal Winds.
Autumnal Winds. Heck yeah.
That's where it starts. Anyway, go ahead.
That music, and Marty, frankly, I think you would know better than I do. That music is made by a guy who is like a walking encyclopedia of incredible music.
Oh yeah.
Tanner is so knowledgeable.
Very talented too. So talented.
Oh my god, he brings all of that into
harp, dulcimer, hammer dulcimer, guitar, you name it.
Yeah. Yeah. I got deep into I was really excited by his first record under the Obsequii name, and I just think it got better. Like I think the most recent record, Palms of Sorrowed Kings, is extraordinary. It's so good. So yeah. Great music.
Absolutely.
Indeed. Yep. But yeah, for all the bands we didn't get a chance to talk about, sorry folks. We have done we've tried to do the topic justice for 3 hours, and yeah, I want to say thank you again to Daniel for joining us. It's obviously very cool to have the man who literally wrote the book on the subject here to share all kinds of cool stuff with us for it. Appreciate you taking the time.
Everybody go get yourself a copy. If you're intrigued, you want to learn more, here's some really cool stories from the people that lived it. Definitely go check out Dan's book, USBM, A Revolution of Identity in American Black Metal. Link in the description.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Albert confirmed earlier they have just a few copies left. So not trying to FOMO anybody, but yeah, they don't have a ton of them. So if you want one, it's a good time to consider picking it up in the near future.
No Gonculator. Oh no, we forgot Gonculator. Yeah, Daniel, thank you so much. It's good to finally meet you. And don't hang up because we'll talk here for a minute afterwards. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And for those of you curious what the album club is, there it is. We'll be talking about this little gem of an album for probably at least an hour. So
I got to wash my hair that night. Sorry.
I don't even want to listen to it. I just thought it'd be an experiment to pick something that was universally hated. Talk about that for a while, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Next week, nothing yet. Correct? For next Friday?
I'm thinking we've got several shows lined up, but I think next week, I don't have my calendar handy, but yeah, I think next week is still wait. Is next week Dan from Sweden? No, that's for another week. So yeah, I think we've got one empty week here somehow, but
right on.
We have been talking to lots of folks. It's just a matter of getting, people slotted into the Friday that works best for them. But we do have, we've got Dan from the Colosseums coming back pretty soon. We've been talking with Hunter from Agalok. We'll be seeing him in the near future. Lots of good topics and guests are in the works.
Yep, and next month we'll have Albert and Dave Gelke back to do Paradise Lost deep dive, which is 17 albums long.
Yep.
Here we go. I've started my homework, Alan. You'd be proud of me. You'd be proud of me.
Anyway, I've already heard all 17.
Whatever. Whatever.
Nice try.
Nice try. You have to get up pretty early to get ahead of this guy. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much. We will see you next time. Go check out the Discord server, link in the description. Go buy a USBM book, and we will see you next week. Have a good one.
Have a good